Everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started with our regular city commission meeting. Thank you for your patience as we wrapped up a special meeting that we had prior to this. We will go ahead and start this. It is April 6th, 2026, starting at 6:17 p.m. All right, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Only announcement for this evening is that Commissioner Sorolla is not here tonight, so it'll just be the four of us, and we'll move on to approval of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. All right, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Ori?
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni? Yes.
Now we will move on to public comment. This is for items on our consent agenda or not on the agenda. Please come up to the podium here, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Robert Montgomery. I own 221 Main and the Copper Pot. As part of our downtown, I've always appreciated the collaborative effort that keeps St. Joseph a destination for residents and visitors alike. For years, businesses downtown have discussed how summer parking becomes difficult. Don't worry, I'm not going to bring that up again. The city's own study found that the main issue wasn't customers, it was beachgoers and downtown employees. Last year, seasonal paid parking was introduced to help manage that, but it was rescinded after only a few weeks. Now the city is revisiting the idea, and alongside the new plan, street parking alongside Lake Boulevard has been eliminated entirely to avoid conflicts during events like Krasl Art Fair, the car show, farmers market, etc. That decision protects events that are key amenities that draw people and energy into the downtown. I believe the same consideration should be extended to Pleasant Street Plaza because the plaza serves a similar purpose, helping make downtown more vibrant, more walkable, and more inviting. Pleasant Street Plaza was born out of the pandemic so people could safely dine and enjoy our city. It quickly became a success, and today, 6 summers later, Pleasant Street Plaza continues to thrive and has never drawn a single complaint. I would also like to note that the plaza is not a private gain. It doesn't result in increased revenue. My kitchens can only produce so much food, so if I have tables sitting outside, that simply means I'm not sitting tables inside. But what the plaza does create is an atmosphere and energy. When people come downtown and they see umbrellas, outdoor tables, people listening to live music, and really enjoying themselves, it gives them a reason to stay longer, visit more shops, and contribute to the vibrancy that keeps our downtown strong. Now, Pleasant Street Plaza fulfills a long-standing goal of the city's master plan, which is creating a walkable, appealing downtown space, and it's done so with 0 taxpayer funding. This is completely taken up by all the businesses on Pleasant Street. Now, the parking spaces near Pleasant Street Plaza are already designated to be paid parking with the new plan, and we are completely fine with that. But what is under discussion is to possibly ask the businesses to now financially compensate for those spaces as well. And that's really why I'm here tonight to shed light upon that. If that happens, the plaza may have to end. It simply does not make sense to pay for something that doesn't generate additional revenue, but enhances the community. And if fairness is truly the goal, then that fairness should apply across the board. When events like Chalk the Block close down streets and take away parking on the west side, will they also be charged for those block spaces? Because if Pleasant Street Plaza must pay for those spaces, the same rule should apply for every event.
That's your 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good evening. I'm Kelly Vega. I'm the owner of St. Joe Community Tap Room inside of the market, right across from 221 Main. I'm here with Robert. And I just wanted to express my support for the points that he just shared. We're here after several months of planning and our presentation being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So we just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today in the public comment about the plaza, the impact that extends just beyond those who experience it in person. Communities similar to ours along the shoreline and beyond are actively investing in outdoor pedestrian-friendly gathering spaces. They enhance vibrancy, they create a sense of place for locals and visitors. We're seeing this take shape in all of our neighboring communities, with the Node and Niles, the Bridgman Courtyard, and new plans in Stevensville and Benton Harbor Arts District already underway. The Pleasant Street Plaza already has years of strong, proven momentum. It's established, it's well received, it's actively contributing to the energy of our downtown. Continuing to build on that momentum is critical. Without it, we risk falling behind in both tourism and the vibrant social experiences today's community expect. I strongly support approving the 2026 as a bridge year for the plaza as soon as possible, and allowing us time to develop a thoughtful and long-term solution that preserves what's already working so well. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Myrene Cook, and I'm currently an assistant prosecuting attorney for the Berrien County Prosecutor's Office. I'm running for judge in November when Judge Cotter retires. I have been a prosecuting attorney for 26 years at this point. I have a 100% conviction rate in all of the homicide cases I've done. I also have specialized in cases involving children as victims. I teach for the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan, so I teach law enforcement, child protective services workers, and other prosecutors how to handle those types of cases, and also how to forensically interview children. In my prior counties I've lived in, I've been on the school board, I've been the president of my Children's Advocacy Center, the president of my domestic violence shelter, and I think the experience that I have would lend well to being able to take the bench when Judge Cotter retires. We will be losing a lot of experience with him, and I have that trial experience. I appreciate your time tonight. I do have petitions here. I need to have registered voters sign to get me placed on the ballot. This is a nonpartisan position, and I would pledge to do my absolute best to do the right thing for the right reason for the cases that would come before me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Sean Hill, 801 Park Street. I actually can agree with Robert. I think there should probably be no paid parking, period. So if we're going to do Pleasant Street Plaza, we should do State Street Plaza, right? We should open that up to the community and let everybody be able to walk down State Street and block that off and not have paid parking. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I remember correctly, this gentleman was for paid parking, so I think, like I said, if he wants it, then we should have it on State Street too, so.
Thank you.
For your time.
Other public comment?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jamie Gross, and I am a co-owner of Silver Harbor Brewing Company, and I also own Union and Social Event Venue on Court Street, and we've been open for 10 years today at Silver Harbor Brewing, so it's our anniversary. Thank you. I'm here tonight because we were originally slated to be on the agenda to vote on Pleasant Street Plaza. And so I just wanted to make sure that the City Commission is fully aware of the current status and the urgency surrounding this. The DDA voted in January to unanimously support our proposal for a long-term agreement. And this morning in the meeting, they affirmed a reduced extension of a one-year bridge as a transitional season for 2026, while a long-term policy or agreement was able to be put in place. This agreement for Pleasant Street Plaza has been under discussion since September of last year, And over the last several months, this item has been delayed from coming forward in part alongside the broader parking discussions. As a result, we're now being compressed in the timeline as we approach the summer season. In just a few short weeks, we've gathered over 250 community signatures, maybe some of you in this room, in response in supporting the Pleasant Street Plaza, which reflects how important this space has become to not only the community, but also to visitors alike. The plaza has evolved over the 6 years, as Robert mentioned, and not only supports the city's master vision, but events like weekly programming, farmers markets, Chalk the Block, the Kids Zone in St. Joe today. We have over 30 scheduled musicians that are on the books at $15,000 in cost to Silver Harbor Brewing alone. Weddings and events that bring hundreds of visitors downtown to dine and play and eat on all areas of St. Joe, and non-for-profit engagement as well as seasonal employment that it brings. These are real immediate impacts. And with this agenda item now being pushed to April 27th, we're at a point that we need to finalize hiring, programming, and event planning. And without clarity, we aren't able to move forward and have to pause on our commitments. We fully support the city in taking the time to establish a fair and defensible long-term framework for this. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the commission is aware of the timing and the impact that this delay is having to the upcoming season. We would also be very open to any opportunity in moving this forward sooner, whether through a special meeting or earlier consideration, so that we can responsibly plan for our season ahead. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Jim Jeske, 319 Lake Court. I walked out of that last meeting and really annoyed and went to see Kayla Griffith and spent time with her. I guess I'm going to say it would be nice for somebody to stand up over here and say, I'd like to make a motion to rescind last month's vote. It seemed to me it got railroaded in real fast, and Mr. Sorolla was really against it, and Mrs. Vetney or Miss Vetney was against it. You know, amazingly, those were the top two vote getters when we had an election, and they were against it. So I'd like to see a motion out and dump it, get rid of it. The next day in the newspaper, New Buffalo, we're not intelligent enough to go with parking right now. We're going to delay it. Up the coastline, as far as I can tell, South Haven doesn't have it. Saugatuck doesn't have it. Nobody's got it. St. Joe needs to get it fast. And then you put it in and everything is, well, we'll tweak it. God, that's the most terrible word in the English language. Everything is tweak. We'll tweak it. I don't know how to swim, but I'm going to jump in the river and we'll tweak it. I don't know. I can tell you, if this was on the ballot, yes or no for paid parking in St. Joe, it would go down. It would be no. And I'd bet a lot of money that it would be no. I go for walks and I have never seen one person get up here for this paid parking. Not one person. Sean Hill stood up last meeting and he pretty well went berserk. But of all the things he said, everything he said was true. Everything. You know, I know Mr. Fernandez really wants his paid parking to go, but he's a young guy. I've been here 80 years. We've done fine without paid parking for 80 years. We don't need it. And you know, you walk and you hear, you know what the problem with the commission is? We got too many women. We got too many liberals. We got too many Democrats. Why don't we do what's best for St. Joe? Quit all this party line. Do what's best for St. Joe and forget all that and just take this parking and just stop it. Businesses don't want it.
That's your 3 minutes, sir.
Up?
That's your 3 minutes.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
got one more little quick one. After I've said all this, you know, it could be worse. It could be Tiger Woods. And what he needs is he needs a good driver.
Any other public comment?
Hi there. I'm Scott Denis. I'm an attorney in Grand Rapids. About a year ago, I was paid to come down after you had initially started your paid parking program. And now that you've done it again, I'm back. I've been engaged again by the business owners downtown, a group of them that are concerned with what you're doing. We think there's a direct correlation between charging for parking and lack of business. Last year, your parking program was in place for 3 weeks, and I have clients that lost between $30,000 and $50,000 during that period. Actually, 75,000 is the high end there. Really, one only needed to walk down State Street and look at the emptiness of State Street in St. Joe to see the obvious impact that your program was having downtown. We remain interested in finding solutions, but the city seems bent on this idea that the special sauce to solve the problem is paid parking. You seem convinced that one, there's a problem, and two, paid parking is the solution. I'm not sure we agree with either of those things. We are investigating our options now, and we want very much to engage with the city again and work through this rather than taking some action against the city. We ask one last time for the 3P solution, which is pause paid parking. That's what we want again until we can again put this together. I'm hearing this tonight about the Pleasant Street Plaza, and it occurs to me that perhaps more time to develop a comprehensive plan here is in order. So thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Jill Haboush. I'm the Chief Development Officer of the YMCA of Greater Michiana. Shifting topics, I hope you don't mind. I wanted to say thank you again for consideration for hosting the 15th annual Race for YMCA 5K, 10K downtown St. Joe on Saturday, July 18th. And while I have just another moment or two, I wanted to say, just share this, that the U.S. Senate on March 12th put out a resolution, which I thought was pretty cool because a lot of times the YMCA, we're non-bipartisan, we're a nonprofit, but it's pretty cool. We're celebrating as an organization 175 years as the YMCA. And a few fun facts, if those of you that are going to watch basketball tonight didn't know it, but the YMCA created basketball. Yeah, so go blue tonight for those of you who are watching the final game tonight. Also, the resolution shares a few things, which I thought were just kind of fun things. The YMCA provided safe housing during the Industrial Revolution, launched the first night school in English as a second language classes, and as we probably all would know, delivered the first group swim lessons, right? So when you think YMCA, a lot of times you think swim. I'm going to read just a couple more things here. Whereas the YMCA is the leader in providing swim lessons, camping, youth sports, child nutrition programs, lifestyle, health, fitness, and well-being programs, and is the largest provider of fitness programs for older adults. Whereas the YMCA serves people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities, creating spaces where all people feel welcome, are treated with respect, and find opportunities to connect with their neighbors. And finally, whereas the YMCA across the U.S. are working to build stronger and more connected communities through intentional experiences that help people achieve their goals, foster connection, and promote well-being in order to build relationships and thrive. The U.S. Senate resolved congratulations and expressed appreciation to the YMCA for 175 years in the U.S. I'd like to say that the Benton Harbor St. Joseph YMCA is celebrating 100 years this year as well, so we will be continuing to push out some celebration there. But wanted to just share a little bit of the history of YMCA throughout the U.S. and say thank you for the opportunity to continue to promote the YMCA in our own community, and that this fundraiser helps us to provide proceeds to help support programming in our community, those outreach swim programs, the youth summer day camp programs, the before and after school care programs, the Live Strong for our cancer patients, and our enhanced fitness for our seniors. So, and a plethora of more opportunities. So just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Appreciate the city's continued support. And I've got a handful of Try the Y cards. If anybody wants to try the Y, I'll leave them on the back counter. You can pick one up on your way out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comment?
Hello, good evening. My name is Diop Harris, and I just want to thank you all for your intentionality on finding new ways to fund the city. My name's Diop. I'm originally from Battle Creek, and I'm here today as a future work partner of yours. I'm running for Congress and looking to be your partner in Washington, D.C. As a former staffer in the Senate, I've worked under the great Senator Sherrod Brown and spent countless hours working with municipalities, unlocking congressionally directed funding, and making sure that went back home and went to improvements on projects like infrastructure, schools, and any other community projects. So I'm looking forward to prepping up that work and getting that done in Washington next year. Wanted to say, as a young person running for office, and as we're seeing, 3/4 of young people not believing that they would be able to afford a home at some point, we need more young people in office. As we're just finishing up Women's History Month, and as somebody who was born and raised in a matriarchy, the pay gap being 30 cents wide, we need more women in office. So I just wanted to respond to the comments earlier, but also bring back to the point that you guys are looking for more ways to bring revenue into the city. And obviously, your residents have some comments about that. So doing the work of the city, requires this, not just showing up at a meeting, but, caring about democracy enough to do something about it. So not only thanks to the commission, but thank you to all the residents for showing up and continue to be active in your city. So thank you for the time and space, and hope to see you all in your communities at some point in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other public comment?
All right, seeing no other, we will move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda include meeting minutes of March 16th, 2026, summer tennis agreement with the South Shore Tennis and Racket Club, invoice and tax disbursements, tree trimming and removals, sewer camera purchase requests, special event applications for Race for YMCA 5 and 10K, the annual Peace Officers Memorial Day Program, fee schedule update, post-construction stormwater runoff program, and the seasonal and blossom time vendors. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Yeah, we call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. All right, first item is old business downtown parking program season pass.
Good evening. At the March 16th meeting, the commission approved the updated parking plan and asked staff to work with the parking subcommittee to explore the possibility of offering a season pass. Since that time, the subcommittee met and developed a proposal for a seasonal on-street parking pass. The idea is to offer a simple, convenient option for residents and visitors who frequent the downtown throughout the summer. The proposed pass would be a one-time purchase and would be valid for the entire parking season, which was approved as June 1st through Labor Day, or whenever purchased through Labor Day. The pass would allow the purchaser to park in any designated paid space within the parking district without needing to continually visit the kiosk or use the mobile payment option repeatedly. It's important to note that all other parking regulations would still be applied, including the 3-hour time limit and other applicable restrictions, such as the ADA spaces, those requirements. The subgroup proposed a seasonal cost of $50, so that would be the one-time fee. So tonight I'm asking the commission to approve the attached resolution, which reflects the parking plan you previously approved, also incorporating the details of the season pass.
Thanks, Kelly. And for clarity, we're still planning on residents of the city of St. Joseph
Correct.
being able to register to park.
Yes.
So this does not
residents
apply to
still-
residents.
Yep, so this would be for anybody.
Yep.
Residents would still get, the city residents would still get the free passes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that was
Yep,
clear.
Yes, absolutely. Nothing changes that from what was approved last time.
And this is kind of the idea that we all talked about last discussion, that some people were really uncomfortable with this not being available. And so this is why we're coming back and saying, here's an option for people who would rather do this than mess with the app and that kind of thing.
One-time purchase, I did get clarification from the people that do the pay stations. You can buy it at the pay station. I don't know, I haven't gotten, I don't know if you can buy it on the app, but you can go to the pay station and buy it. And we'll figure out a way to do it here at City Hall too, if somebody wants to pay cash to do that, so.
Yeah. Kelly, I'd love to know how you guys came up with $50.
It had to do, the $45 was recommended,
Mhm.
and it had to do with the Parks Pass, possibly looking at that going up in the future. So it's just keeping in line with kind of what the Parks Passes are, which I believe are, Emily, can you remind me?
$40.
like
We
looking-
have already started prior to and separately from downtown parking, talking about potentially changing that in the future. My understanding is that the county and some other folks in nearby areas are also looking at increasing theirs. So with that in mind, that's where the conversation moved to going a little bit higher than 45 with sort of that change being anticipated and keeping them consistent.
I don't have any more questions.
No, this was, nothing different from what we had, approved at the last meeting. And, this is just that development of that pass that we asked for, to accommodate, folks that want to just buy a pass and not have to think about it for the season. So this accomplishes that. I'd like to make a motion to approve unless you had a question.
I just realized that I want to remind the public that if you buy a pass, it doesn't guarantee you a parking spot.
Correct.
It's whatever's available. It's just a
Same as
convenience.
Anywhere, yep, same as if at the beaches, I mean, it's, it
And-
gives you the opportunity to, if there's parking available, it's.
I move to approve the resolution to amend established parking zones, rates, fees, time limits, and parking benefits districts as presented.
Second.
All right, any public comment on the matter?
Sean Hill, 801 Park Street. I don't know if I said that earlier. So of course, you guys all know I'm against paid parking, but I know you're going to do it anyhow. I'm not for a permit. I'm not for any paid parking at all. So just real quick, just thinking about things today and everything, I did a quick Google search. You gotta love Google. And I looked it up about paid parking, and it says paid parking in cities, compliment of Google right here. Paid parking in cities, while often implemented to manage traffic and turnover, can have several negative impacts on residents, visitors, and local businesses. Those include financial burdens, decreased foot traffic for small businesses, and the favorite word that you guys all like to use, social inequity. So as many times as I hear that out of this board over the years, equitable, inequity, all this other stuff, are you really believing in that? Because obviously, even according to this, it's inequitable. You're basically putting a financial burden on middle to lower income people who want to just come enjoy our town, open our arms open to our town. Instead, you guys have just literally slammed the door in our visitors' face. That's how I feel. And it doesn't matter whether it's a yearly permit or paid parking. Like I told you before, just the thought of paid parking, people in other areas in our community, which we have to remember, yes, we get visitors from out of town. Chicago, we love them. Come on in. We love to have the visitors from out of town, but you're forgetting about all the locals that support us in the off season, all these businesses. And those are the ones who are saying, love you guys. Literally, they're saying this, love you, but not going to come if you guys are going to charge paid parking. And they just feel like we're too snooty, I guess you could say. That's the thought process behind what some people think about us here in St. Joe, especially now with the paid parking. I try to correct that. I live here. I've lived here for a long time, longer than probably a lot of you have. But I'm just saying, this was the wrong thing to do. Admit it, get rid of it, cut your losses, and let's move on. You're going to destroy these businesses. One of the things that even talked about in here is that even according to this, I'm assuming it's probably even more. Some of the businesses could answer this, but it says that it could result in a 12 to 18% drop in small business transactions. That's devastating to some of these small businesses. Like I said, last meeting, we heard from a lady who actually had to sell her home, Kelly, and she had to sell her home to keep her business afloat. I know there was a couple other businesses that actually had to dip into their 401k to keep their businesses going. This is a bad idea. The publicity of it's just bad. Nobody else is doing it but St. Joe. Even New Buffalo, like Mr. Jeske said, New Buffalo even pushed it off. And we have all this construction coming up in the next 2 years between the downtown development, and everything like that. It's just bad timing for all this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other public comment? All right. Be coming up. Go ahead.
Jim Kramer, 497 Dune Ridge South, also from Shoes and Tim's too. And again, this is a rough idea, a number of employees that we have. Shoes employs about 75 people in the summer. Tim's too, about 25. Down below us is Nardo's, which is another 15. They will not get free parking. Most of those employees, not even just most, we have 5 that live here in town, in St. Joe, that will be able to get free parking. All the rest come from Stevensville, Coloma, the list goes on. And so they will have to either buy passes or park in the free lots. Buying passes, I think it's too much for those young people to do that. And maybe they don't have to, but I think it's a number, $50, that I just think it's the wrong number. Say that. If you said $25, I might say, okay, this is doable. But to go higher than what everybody else is doing in the community and thinking about what you're going to do in the future, I think is the wrong way to look at it. It's a wrong way to look at anything I would do in business, anything that I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? All right. I think we had a motion and a second. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on old business is text amendment, temporary structures, second and final reading.
Dalton, and I'm pulling up a presentation. Dalton, I'm less prepared than I want to be, so just give me 1 second. I
quite all right.
apologize. 2 meetings in one night is apparently more than my brain can handle. Okay. Let's do this again. All right, that's good, but no one can see it. Yay. Zoom.
I suppose I can just get started for the sake of time. This is regarding the zoning ordinance text amendments to amend section 3.15 of our zoning ordinance, temporary buildings and structures. The proposed language would allow C-zoned commercial business district parcels to be conditionally approved to erect temporary seasonal structures such as special event tents. The language specifically allows it under certain conditions, such as a maximum size limitation, limiting it to a maximum of 180 days per calendar year, maximum height of 14 feet. It is required to comply with the setback requirements of the C-zone district for a principal building, as well with lot coverage requirements and clear vision areas need to be maintained. 1 temporary structure would be allowed per lot, with the exception of any restroom facilities. Parking would need to be provided in compliance with Article 18 of the zoning ordinance, and it would have to be maintained in good standing with the manufacturer's instructions, fire code regulations, and any applicable health codes. In terms of action thus far, the Planning Commission at their December 4th, 2025 meeting recommended approval based on the staff edits to the proposed text amendments to the City Commission. And then at the January 8th, 2026 City Commission meeting, the commission had tabled the first reading of proposed text amendments to allow staff time to analyze the scope of parcels affected by the proposed text amendments, so the commission may better understand the implications of the adoption. This was seen again at the March 16th meeting to continue the first reading. At this meeting, the first reading was approved with the understanding and condition that staff would review the text and prepare a new set of amendments, which would provide a more subjective review criteria, potentially to kind of limit and analyze more on a case-by-case basis which properties would be permitted to erect a special event tent or otherwise seasonal structure. At this meeting, the commission should discuss the proposed text amendments, and subject to any comments, you may approve the recommended staff edits to section 3.15. In the event the amendments are moved for adoption, staff will post the public notice of the adoption, and the amendments shall take effect 10 days after the final passage. And looking forward, staff has discussed how to move forward with the City Commission's request to further amend the section. At this stage, the most appropriate, based on feedback we've received, would be to require a special use approval. This would require applicants to go before the Planning Commission and then the City Commission. Staff does have certain concerns regarding this requirement, as the time-sensitive nature of a temporary seasonal structure having to go before 2 public hearings may be somewhat burdensome to applicants, but it would satisfy the Commission's concerns of and avoid any unexpected impact that may not be within the expectations of the intent of the text amendments. It would help avoid possible solutions in the new set of text amendments. We could possibly allow the approval to be on a recurring seasonal basis to avoid a potential glut of applications bogging down commission agendas. Further, we could consider having the special use approval only be triggered up to a certain size of temporary structure. So if someone had a smaller event, like let's say the Girl Scout troops come in, they want to get a small tent to sell their cookies, we wouldn't have to send them to the special land use approval for the a 10 by 10 tent, for example. And if you have any questions regarding the language as proposed or commentary regarding moving forward and what you would like to see, I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do not. I thank you for, starting to work on that process so that we can, get ahead of these, for future, but, we discussed this one at length, last time, and kind of, we didn't have a policy that allowed this behavior. So we're getting closer to, we're improving. So
Nothing else? Okay.
I move to approve a second reading of the ordinance to amend Article 3, General Provisions, Section 3.15, Temporary Buildings and Structures, to establish regulations associated with seasonal temporary structures in the C Commercial Business District in the zoning ordinance of the City of St. Joseph, as proposed by staff, which clarifies the language recommended by the Planning Commission, which held a public hearing as required by Section 22.2 on December 4th, 2025, finding that the recommended finding that the recommended language has satisfied all the standards set forth under Section 22.3 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
Any public comments on this matter? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Olry?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, next item up under new business is the Marquette NEZ certificate request.
Good evening again. So again, at the March 16th meeting, you approved the establishment of a neighborhood enterprise zone for the properties at 315 Lake Boulevard and 508 Pleasant Street under Public Act 147 of 1992 as amended. The Rinks Group has submitted an application for an NEZ certificate for their mixed-use development, as we know, the Marquette, on those properties for a term of 15 years, which is the maximum length allowed. I'm going to introduce in person this time Samantha Marius from Fleece and Vandenbrink, wow, sorry, who will give you a little bit more information on the certificate and the process.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Happy to join everyone in person this time. Appreciate the accommodations last time. Kelly did a great job introducing this. You did have a public hearing months ago regarding the establishment of the district for this. And then on March 16th, the district was approved. And procedurally, we're at that next step where a certificate is before you for consideration. This is consistent with the statutory guidelines in that there's been no issuance of building permits or commencement of construction. And this certificate only pertains to the apartment units, not the entirety of the development. So taxes will still be levied on that larger portion of the project. Again, as we talked about last meeting, this is a targeted housing incentive and redevelopment incentive. It's not a financial give to the developers. It is meant to fill the gap between the rising cost of construction and allow the Rinks Group to have homes that are attainable for those who want to live in St. Joe. Based on the preliminary financial considerations that were also modeled in the approved brownfield plan, which did contemplate the NEZ. We're looking at the estimated value of that being about $3.1 million over that 15-year period. And again, this is a reduction in future property taxes and not an upfront contribution on that project. Again, the exemption only applies if the project is constructed as proposed and does not take effect until approved by the State Tax Commission. Approval here this evening would then be forwarded to the State Tax Commission for their formal consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and we also have Michigan Growth Advisors, Jared Lutz and Terry Malloy from the Rinks Group here to answer any project-specific questions you may have.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any questions from the commission?
Is it just the apartment and the parking or just the part? I thought it was.
So
Oh.
I believe the write-up identifies it specifically. The request is, give me 1 second to find it. The request, so the project includes 102 residential units, of which 70 residential units are included in the NEZ certificate request.
Okay, but not the parking?
I believe that that's correct. Terry?
Hi, good evening, Commission. My name is Jared Lutz, Michigan Growth Advisors. You are correct, yes. So the underlying land and commercial space, which I believe is about 12,000 square feet, and the parking deck and the condos are not subject to this NEZ abatement. All that would be subject to are the apartment units.
Thank you. And those are meant to be maintained at attainable rents using the 120% AMI calculation from the state.
Yep, more details to come on that.
Great.
So
Any other questions?
with that being true, then without the NEZ, then those apartments would not then be able to be affordable. To make the project math, you would have to charge significantly more, which would then not make those housing units attainable, which is really what I look at as the attractive. That is the type of housing that we are trying to encourage. Housing that people that live here and work here can actually afford so that they can live here and continue to do so. So I just wanted to stress that in the absence of that, rents would go significantly higher.
Yeah, and I think it's always important to, if you don't mind explaining again, and you might be doing this in a second, what AMI housing is as opposed to affordable housing. I think those words get conflated a lot, but they are two genuinely different things.
Sure. So some of this I'll address in my comments,
Perfect. Okay.
and then I'll talk about, and actually Jared might be able to as well. the distinction between AMI and affordable as a, kind of term of art within the industry. But hello again, my name is Terry Malloy. I'm the Director of Development for the Rinks Group. Peter's unable to attend today. He's traveling with his family. As we said, Jared Lutz from Michigan Growth Advisors. We're here to provide information, answer questions, and ask for the commission's approval of the Marquette Project's NEZ certificate. So I believe you're all fairly familiar with the project at this point. I think we've been up here half a dozen times in the past year. But really, I'd like to speak to you tonight to drive home why the NEZ is crucial to us achieving the point of groundbreaking and being able to then deliver the housing units, the restaurants, shops, underground parking that will benefit the community and the city of St. Joe. So our preference, kind of like we've shared, and we believe that this has been a shared preference with the city commission, the majority of the citizens of St. Joe, and anyone who wants a thriving future for the city, is to build attainably priced rental housing and in a beautiful building that will bring more residents to live, enjoy, interact, and shop in downtown St. Joe. That's what the NEZ supports. As was previously mentioned, lowers the tax burden only on the apartment component, not on the condo or restaurant or parking components. So, as mentioned as well, without the TIF and NEZ incentives, the project doesn't happen. It's not a matter of preference, but a matter of math. We've known that the NEZ was a necessary component of the capital stack since last fall. The NEZ, along with the TIF, enables the Marquette to offer 31 of its apartments at the Berrien County determined affordable rental rate of 100% of area median income, or AMI. Incomes for those 31 units and for the renters in them, those incomes will be restricted to community makers, to community members making 120% of AMI or less. So there's both the rental rate and the income restriction on those units. Additionally, another 31 apartments will be offered at the Berrien County determined affordable rental rate of 120% of AMI. So not income restricted, but rental rate restricted. Without the NEZ and TIF, the Marquette would not generate enough income at these rental rates to cover debt service to satisfy the bank lenders. Without the NEZ and TIF, the project would need significantly higher rents to meet that debt service. Lenders wouldn't even consider a loan for the project otherwise. The bottom line is they go together. The attainable rental rates without these incentives just doesn't work. So lastly, we do know that there's maybe some misunderstanding in the public about the project and the public incentives. So just to reiterate, the Marquette creates a net increase in tax revenue, which, based on our and Michigan Growth Advisors estimates, will generate an additional $230,000 above the current tax bill of $40,000. Again, this is an estimate. The property has not been formally assessed by the tax authorities yet. Secondly, neither the TIF nor the NEZ provides any existing city funds to the project. So both the TIF reimbursements and the NEZ tax reduction stem from future value created by the Marquette project that would not otherwise exist. So we've spoken previously about St. Joe's housing needs and the desire for the housing to be attainable for city residents. I guess to address the point of AMI versus affordable. AMI is a measurement that's produced by MSHDA every year, across the state by county, and you have percentiles. So those tables, which we could share with the commission as well, or it's something that you could also just Google and find, gives a set of tables that has the incomes at different percentiles across the county, what would be affordable rents for those incomes, and then by bedroom what the rents would be. And so So all that's always determined, kind of outside of our control. That's just based off of economic data. To say affordable, is oftentimes just a term of art, and could be, someone saying affordable units are 40% of AMI or 80% of AMI. Generally, that's more like a federally incentivized program that you have low income housing tax credits, stuff like that. But in our mind, what we're looking to do is, we know that this is a really desirable spot. We want to make a building that stands the test of time, and so hitting that middle of the bell curve, so to speak, in terms of incomes is our goal. So Jared, if you could add a little bit, I guess, about the across the span of the TIF and NEZ periods, that would help.
Yeah, just a couple of numbers as he was talking about, when we say AMI, what that means is area median income. So, the housing TIF program is really good at that missing middle or that workforce housing, which is generally about 80% to 120% of area median income. For a two-person household in Berrien County, that rounds out to about $55,000 to $83,000 a year. So if you're talking about kind of universe of tenant pool, those are the folks that are really the target here. There are other programs for different affordability levels, but this tool works really well for that missing middle. Those rents are about $1,300 to $1,700, depending on whether you're in a studio or a two-bedroom. So order of magnitude, those are kind of the income and rent figures. I think Terry gave a good overview, as did Sam. So in the interest of time, I'm happy to pause. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
I don't have any further questions. I think this is something our community needs, and we've been talking about it for quite a while now. So thank you for the presentation and for answering any questions we've had so far. Anyone else with questions?
No, appreciate the clarification. I'm at that income level and that's what I pay in rent, so it makes a lot of sense to me.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution approving the Rinks Group request for an NEZ certificate for 315 Lake Boulevard and 508 Pleasant Street pursuant to Public Act 147 of 1992 as amended.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? This is 15 years. Yep. Yeah, thank you. All right, come on up. Oh, no public comment, or you are coming up? Go ahead.
Tim Palega, 4127 Landings Lane. I spoke here a couple weeks ago about my plethora of children. And by the way, three of them, well, all of them were on Y swim team, and three of them were lifeguards, and happy anniversary. One was actually lifeguard here in St. Joe for a couple of years at the YMCA. I have another one graduating from Michigan State University. Unfortunately, he's not going to be enjoying the game this evening, but he will be graduating this May as an electrical engineer and is interested in working at the Cook Nuclear Plant or Whirlpool. I have two other children who work in the Niles area. St. Joe's closer. One of them is one of those crazy surfers who tries to surf at Tiscornia. So we're looking very much forward to the opportunity of some affordable housing. And I don't know if my math is correct, but I did a quick calculation, and you can correct me. 3.1 million over 15 years is 200,000 a year. You'll actually be raising more taxes than that. If you divide that by 70 apartments, it comes out to $250 a month is the reduction in rent, which is pretty significant at that price range. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments?
So I had my comments last time. Sean, on this, I understand the city is not going to be putting out any more money, but as a taxpayer of the state of Michigan, are they contributing to this through the TIF and the tax abatement then? Is that what I'm hearing then? Is through the state, not the city? That'd be my first question. Second question is, when I moved to St. Joe in my 20s, I didn't have any subsidy helping me rent. I found me a nice little place down on Lions Park Drive, upstairs apartment to house, and found it on my own. I was making what, $25,000-$30,000 out of college at that time. So I'm just going to call this what it is. It is, part of it is subsidized housing. And then Mr. Rinks, is that it? Or is that your name, Mr. Rinks?
You can address your
Yeah.
questions to us.
But
and-
anyhow, I just want to, you said a key word, desirable location. My thoughts are, with all the people you have involved with you in building this project, which I've heard who a lot of them are, they're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. Why don't we just build this thing, and being desirable property, why don't we just sell the condos and start collecting tax money right away? I guess what I'm looking at is the money we can generate right away to take care of that $90 million worth of projects we got going on here in the city of St. Joe that you guys presented to us last year. So that's my proposal on it. I mean, I know it doesn't mean anything because you guys are going to approve it anyhow, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people involved with this project that are worth millions, but actually I did hear rumor that one of the big contributors pulled out of the project. I don't know how true that is or not, but I just think it is desirable property, and we should sell the condos for what they are and collect the tax money right away off of it, if that's what you guys want to do, because we got all these projects going on. It's going to cut us short. So that's my opinion. I know we are increasing it from the 40,000 to the 235,000. That's great. But just think of the potential if we did away with the apartments and just sold them all as condos. It's lakefront property. I don't think you're going to have a problem selling those. It's just my thought.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, Andrew Hahn with Cornerstone Alliance. I'm just going to make a couple quick comments and remind some folks and note that it sounds like we might have a burgeoning developer here that could do some projects. We need everyone we can find in our community. So as a reminder, this project will generate $5.5 million of estimated annual consumer spending to downtown businesses. That $230,000 in tax revenue that was noted, that would again come on top of that other 40. So we're talking about $270,000 a year going to the city coffers. This project puts St. Joe on the map for the development community as well. It already has. So we are seeing considerable interest in developing more housing and investing in this community in a way that hasn't happened in decades. It's consistent with the master plan. It begins to address the critical housing shortage. You'll remember me coming up a year or so ago talking about the fact that the most recent market analysis we had done at that point called for the ability to absorb up to 900 units, rental units in St. Joe over the next 5 years. This is a big, important part of that. We have another one we're going to be releasing in just a couple weeks, so stay tuned. Again, there's not risk to the city in this. That's an important part. There's not an upfront payment. This is an abatement of future taxes that don't come in without these tools being offered. And it's a tried and true tool that's been employed for decades. Public Act, I missed the number, but of 1992, this has been around a long time. It is an important part of capital stacks across the state for mixed use and residential projects. And this has the full support of our board of directors. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I just wanted to come up and state that the state will be participating in the incentives package of this project, both from the abatement and from the brownfield TIF perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't think I see any more public comment. We had a motion and a second, so Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Overy?
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item number 17, Resolution Fund 591 Water System Fiscal Year 27 Water Rate.
I mean, are you able to pull up the presentation?
She send me one?
It's on the agenda, the.
One in the packet.
This is me. I'm sorry. I did not know.
So while Emily's doing that, this is, we're asking for an increase to the system water rate of 5%. This was approved by the WSGOB at last meeting. And as a reminder, the WSGOB does have rate setting authority.
Nope, can't pull it up, Abby, because I can't see it because the meeting rooms. Right. I'll go into. I got this, Ben. But I do need a minute.
So while Emily's doing that, let me start talking about the factors we used to develop this rate. If you remember last year, we had John Cates overcome and develop our rates for us, and he gave a presentation. We decided to do it in-house this year. We use the same program he does. It's called Waterworth, and you'll see the charts that it generates are in the packet. The things that we look at when developing the rate were the current usage trends, and I looked for the past 3 years of usage trends, and we happen to be in the exact middle between the 3 years, so I didn't change those. I have zero growth of new accounts we were just talking about. We have the 2 brownfields happening here. There's also some Act 381 projects happening in our partner townships. I did not factor those in. And then I did not factor the AMI meters. That's a different AMI than we were just talking about. This is the automated meter infrastructure. Though that's a new project that is hoping to come for you relatively soon in a couple of months or so, where we will be replacing many of the old meters in the system. And as you know, a meter slows down as it ages, so it allows water to go through it without actually being read. We're looking to improve those meters and then also develop a system where the meters will talk to a system and we can get the reads automatically.
All right, Ben, where do you want?
Right there.
Great.
Thank you, Emily. And on the expense side, we factor in their known capital projects, and those are listed. We'll see those in a minute. And the new thing that we're adding is $530,000 for the increased meter replacement. And that is not the AMI system I was just talking about. This is increased meters where we've been lagging behind the prior years because we haven't approved the AMI system, so I did not count on that being in this model, but I did put an expense to replace meters. And the last thing is the WSGOB has a term sheet, and that term sheet actually requires specific accumulated depreciation values for projects that were done at the time of the term sheet was signed. We have not been following that as well as we should be in the past. We discovered that this cycle when developing this rate. So I have adjusted our model to account for that. And I want to say that by doing so, we are carrying more cash in the future than I believe we should be. So we talked about the WSGOB meeting at length, and it was decided that this next meeting here next Wednesday, we're going to come up with what an acceptable cash level will be. And then all 4 of the partner communities, us and the 3 townships, will have to amend the agreement. So that is now in here, as prior years it was not. Can you go to the next slide, please, Emily? So this is the chart that's generated, and I'll just remind everyone what's happening here. The bar graphs are the revenue, the shaded areas are expense, and at the top is the capital, and the light blue area is the debt. And the goal here is to keep the solid black line above the dotted black line. That is the dotted black line is the cash minimum, the goal to have. And the solid black line is where we projecting the cash to be. So we want to have the solid black line above the dotted black line. And down below, I've listed the rates that we had to input into the system to get us to that point. And I have circled in red those rates in next year, 29 and 30. And remember, we're only approving next year, the 27 tonight. We are not approving anything prior. We do this exercise every year. So next year, this time will come before you. And this will look different, obviously, with the whole years of experience behind us. But I'm listing that out because that should be increasing those rates over what we are doing this year. I don't believe is necessary. And that's what we talked about with the WSGOB. And the circle rates there should be motivation for all four of our, the community partners to amend the term sheet so we can lower those rates. Okay, that's why I'm presenting here. But after that, just inputting basically inflation 2% per year. Next slide, please, Emily. This is the capital expenditures we have in the model. Everything in here you will see later tonight in the study session, except for everything beyond 32. I didn't go past 32 in our system. All these projects were talked about during WCOB, and we amended the timing and the values of some of them to fit into the model. Next, please, Emily. This is the debt service. We're adding no debt for this. As the drop is in 33, it's because 2 of the loans are being paid in full. And then this is just a better view of the cash position where we're keeping that solid black line above the dotted black line. And next slide. Okay, so here are the rates themselves. In the box, I have estimated quarterly payments. And we're using the AWWA recommended values, which are 90 gallons a day per person for a typical household of 3.2 people and a 5/8 meter. By amending these rates 5% at those flows, so everyone's going to be different. This is a typical user. If you don't use much water, you'll have a lower rate. If you use more than this, you'll have a higher change to your rates. I personally use right about there, so this is what my rates will be. The quarterly bill will be increased $6.73. Per month is $2.24 or 7 cents a day. And down below, I've listed the history of the rates and the actual changes on the left-hand box, the system water rate box. Does anyone have any questions?
Do not.
Any questions?
No, thank you, Ben.
No, thank you for explaining this thoroughly. You do this every year. And
Yeah.
so it's nothing that new, but it's good to have a refresher. Yeah, I think this makes sense to me.
I move to approve the fiscal year 27 Fund 591 water system rate resolution as presented, adopting the fiscal year 27 Fund 591 water system rate effective July 1st, 2026.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? Come on up.
You bet.
The green one.
The green one?
Carl Meyer, 505 Pleasant. Future depreciation in 2028, 2029 dropped quite a bit. I'm just asking, why do we want to drop it 1 year, then bring it way back up on the other?
You're talking about the capital projects? Yes. So in that chart, you'll see we have, that chart below is the timing of the projects themselves. The dip is just because we don't have anything scheduled at that particular time.
Wouldn't be wise to start keeping that even instead of dropping it?
We have to raise rates higher then.
I don't understand it. If you keep it at 20.
Show the target line and the cash.
Here?
We're cash position.
Right.
But we're staying above that cash position line.
In the model. But all of a sudden, if we need in 2033 capital expenditures, then it's going to go up way more in 2034 instead of trying to keep it at least a little bit higher from 2032 to 2030.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is spread that out as best we can, because if we lower the front, I have to raise rates higher to get the cash out in the future where we need to be. If we have the capital spread in the longer term, we don't need to raise rates as fast as we would. Also, this happens to align with the projected projects themselves. This is one of the best.
But you're going to review it every year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think,
Okay.
can I add a couple of things? We didn't do anything beyond fiscal 32. It's just too far out, which I think is part of it.
Farther out we go, the less we know also, so it's hard to do.
Right. And then we know that we have some that are time sensitive.
Any other
Okay.
public comment?
Thanks, Carl.
All right, seeing no other public comment, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. Thank you, Ben. All right, item number
I
8.
know I have a presentation
All
here.
right, the CWSRF project plan update.
Okay, so we are required to do a public meeting for our Clean Water State Revolving Fund project plan update in order to be eligible for low interest loan funding. We've used this funding many times in the past that save our ratepayers probably millions of dollars in debt service payments. And they also have distributed grant funding through this program as well. There are sign-in sheets in the back. The Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, likes us to keep track at who's at these meetings. They want to know that we did it in a public meeting and we're getting the word out on the projects. So the scope of the work for this is a CSO storage tank. That's the big ticket item. It is the final compliance project in our decades-long program. And then the Hawthorne Lift Station renovation, it's really more of a replacement. The only thing that's staying there is the building itself. All the pumps and the electrical and piping and stuff will be replaced as part of that. On the CSO storage tank side, we'll talk about the background, what a CSO is, the history of the CSO program, the regulatory requirement, why we have to do the project, the alternatives analysis process, and the selected alternative. That process is complete. And then the CSO storage project phasing. So the first phase of the project is actually already complete. We called it the early action project. On the Hawthorne Lift Station, we'll talk a little bit about the lift station condition. It's been designed. The EGLE permit has been issued. It's basically shovel ready. And then the summary of costs and cost to users will be the final thing we cover. So next slide, Emily. So the location of the work, the CSO storage tank will be a public works yard. You can see it's an above ground tank that's located in the southwesterly corner of the property, and the rendering in the upper left there. And then the Hawthorne Lift Station is located west of the railroad tracks, just south of Hawthorne Avenue and its existing location. Again, that's the small pump station building. What you see inside there is a vertical shaft with the pump down there for moving the wastewater. Okay, next slide. So what is a CSO? So back when the city was first built, they only built one pipe. It was designed to convey both stormwater and wastewater directly to the St. Joe River. It was not treated. And then in the 1950s, the wastewater treatment plant was built. And the newer parts of the city, we started doing separate sewers. We built a sanitary sewer for wastewater and a storm sewer for stormwater. But the older parts of the city still had that single pipe. And the volume of stormwater is exponentially higher, much greater in magnitude than wastewater. So the plant could not handle that at all. So they built these relief structures, and that's what you see in the picture on the left, where they kind of build a wall. And so when it rained hard, the water would come up, you get the diluted sanitary sewage, it would actually just go directly to the river at that point in time. We actually had up to 11 of those CSO outfalls as part of the program. We are now down to 2. The recent projects that we have worked on have dealt more with the removal of infiltration. So those are the pictures off to the right there. Sewer systems do not get drier over time. They start to leak. So we have to do rehabilitation projects. We've done cured in place pipe. You probably recall approving contracts on that. The final picture I want to cover here is that is a sump pump that is illegally connected to a sanitary sewer service. We do find these on occasion in the city. It's an easy way to plumb it, but it's got a really bad impact because those send a lot of clean water. And at the end, you're going to see the cost of the storage tank. We definitely don't want those connected to our sanitary sewer system. Okay, next slide. So this is just to show that we have been doing work at an accelerated pace over the last 26 years. The city had done removal projects, but it was at a much slower pace prior to this time. So We're getting to the end of the final compliance. Again, that project in 2025 was that early action project that I'll describe a little bit more in a minute. Next slide. This is the regulatory requirement. So under the Clean Water Act, we're issued a CSO, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, or MPDES permit. It is issued by Eagle. The compliance dates are off to the right. So the two green dates you see highlighted there, that we started the early action project on time and we finished it on time. After that, we started doing flow monitoring and hydraulic modeling on our system. Now, what we need to do is show that we're sizing our storage tank so that we're releasing the flows in a controlled manner that doesn't have an adverse impact on their operations. We don't want to make that tank too big. It costs a lot of money and you got to maintain it and everything else. At the same time, we don't want it too small and cause a problem at the plant. So we're working on that right now. The next critical date in the program is July 1st of 2027. We have to start the CSO storage tank construction or remain in compliance with our permit. So next slide, please. So the alternatives analysis, selected alternative. Again, this has been done, but our Eagle project manager wanted me to do a brief overview of it. A public meeting was held back in June of 2023. We recorded that, and it's actually posted on the engineering website. If you ever have a problem getting to sleep, you might want to watch it. And then the alternative was selected on November 13th on 2023. That was so that we could proceed with the early action project. We did receive CWSRF funding for that. It was kind of late in the game. It's gotten much more competitive. And what happened is some of the bigger projects dropped off the list. So we grabbed that money and ran with it essentially. But by any means, we looked at 5 alternatives in Kiwanis Park. We looked at 2 alternatives at Public Works. Some of them were above ground and some of them were below ground. So the next slide, please. 3 of the alternatives we pretty much dismissed right away. Again, I'm not going to go into detail on these, but basically the cons really outweighed the pros for them. The cost was high, the risk was high. And another factor that came into play as we were doing hydraulic analysis, and I should say Wade Trim, the hydraulic engineers were doing that, is they determined in order to optimize the flow to the wastewater treatment plant, we had to locate what's called a diversion chamber at Public Works. So next slide, please. So we did carry forward analyzing whether or not we wanted to put a tank at Kiwanis Park, above ground tank. Another option we looked at was, next slide, please, a below ground tank at Public Works. This is under the parking lot out in front of the building. But finally, we landed on what you saw at the beginning, that rendering, the above ground tank, because it was the most cost-effective solution. Yeah, there you go. So next slide. And this drawing shows the early action project, or the first phase of the CSO storage project, and the final project that's upcoming. The blue lines are the early action project. So the rectangle you see there is the diversion chamber. The blue lines are the piping that are associated with it. Another big change here is the pipe that went to the Morrison Channel. We increased that from 12 inches to 24 inches in diameter, with the idea being that we could very modestly increase the flows to the plant. Again, I go back to the hydraulic engineers. They analyze that. They look at the timing and how all that has to work, because that's key in all of that. The orangish yellow lines are the work to be done. That includes a pump station, of course, the storage tank and associated piping to release that at a controlled rate after wet weather events occur. Next slide, please. This is a diversion chamber. I've gone through it in very intricate detail in past meetings. I'm not going to do it now. I'm simply going to say the purpose is to optimize the wet weather flow. It uses gravity. It is honestly a very smart, ingenious design that the hydraulic engineers came up with. We want to keep things simple, and they did that. So, and again, I just want to show a nicer slide of the storage tank. The future tank right now, we believe it's going to be about 80 feet in diameter and about 30 feet in height. And it's just another view of it. Next slide. This is the pump station. The main reason I'm showing this is you see those white lines that extend down from the bottom of a slab under the structures. The soils of Public Works the soil bearing capacity, I should say, is very poor. We have to go about 100 feet into the ground with piling to get to something solid so that when we build this, the weight doesn't make our infrastructure settle differentially because it can happen. We use helical piles for that. It's a very efficient way, or we have in the past, and I expect it to be the same. And the construction techniques are good because they don't create a lot of vibration. Next slide, please. Moving on to the Hawthorne Lift Station. The lift station is in poor condition. Again, the design's complete and Eagle has issued the permit. We did get a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant that paid for 74% of that design. So about 73% of the cost was covered of the $99,000 total design cost. The pink area you see and the crosshatched area all flow to the Hawthorne Lift Station. The crosshatch area actually go to the Elko lift station that it pumps to it, a gravity sewer, and eventually makes it to the Hawthorne lift station. That's actually in very poor condition, but because it's a smaller area, the criticality is lower on that lift station. It wasn't eligible for the grant funding, which made it even a little more incentive to let's get the Hawthorne lift station project done first. Next slide. And this is the summary cost and the cost to the users. You can see that the CSO storage tank on this is estimated at $20,700,000. It's a big ticket item. And the Hawthorne lift station is about 1.6 million. When you add in the bonding origination costs and such, we're requesting $22,600,000 on what's called the project priority list that Eagle publishes. I will say this is based on the high end of the storage tank project estimate. The flow monitoring and hydraulic modeling we're doing has indicated that the tank can be smaller at a savings of about $3.4 million. But we've had issues with recent construction projects coming in high, so we're better off leaving the higher number in our plan. So what we're looking at, the low interest loan is a 2.5% loan over a 30-year term. That's about just under a $90,000 payment per month. And what that, for a typical user, the increase in their rate per month is estimated at $19.29. I will say when we do the study session later, you're going to see that number lower for a typical user. And again, it's the whole thing with Waterworth and trying to smooth in. There is definitely upward pressure on our rates. But we're doing everything we can to keep those within reason. So that is the end of the slideshow. Are there any questions?
Thank you for all that. Obviously, you showed the slide where you've been working on this for decades and
Yes.
everything. So I appreciate all the work you and the staff have done. I don't have any questions. It makes sense to me. Anyone else have questions?
I've been the beneficiary of you using some of those models to explain some of this stuff to me in the past, but I, once again, appreciate your level of detail and explanation and background because this is a long-standing thing that is going and it's one of the drivers, but of one of those rate increases and such. So it's important to understand. So thank you.
Any other questions? All right, it's the pleasure of the commission.
I move to approve the fiscal year 27 CWSRF project plan update to allow city staff to submit the required materials to be eligible for a CWSRF low interest loan for sewer system improvements.
Second.
Any public comment on the matter? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now Royalton Water Tower Project Professional Services Agreement.
Greg, do you have a presentation?
No.
Great.
Okay, in October of 2024, Dixon Engineering performed a required inspection of the Royalton Water Tower, which revealed failures in the form of spot rust and corrosion on the exterior and interior of the tank, consistent with close to 20 years of service. Dixon's recommendations include surface preparation, overcoating of the exterior, partial spot blasting and painting of the interior, along with Eagle required overflow discharge modifications and fall protection device modifications at an estimated cost of about $300,000. Staff is seeking approval to engage Dixon Engineering at a cost of $44,700 to, number one, conduct design engineering services. So this would include specifying the paint and application specs on the tower. So the paint that comes in contact with potable water must be approved for that contact. It's the NSF 61 standard. These specifications would require that the paints meet that standard. There would be standards in terms of preparation, standards in terms of paint application, number of coats, thickness of coats. That's all part of the the project specifications and the engineering that they're doing. Number two is overseeing bid administration, including preparing the project bidding and contract documents and submitting the Act 399 permit application. And then number three, conduct construction administration and inspection services to assure that the paints are being applied properly during the project. So the Water Service Joint Operating Board approved this action during its February 18th, 2026 meeting. And based on the findings of the most recent inspection, it was determined that this project was time sensitive, and as such, the WSJOB recommends addressing the Royalton Water Tower before the city's water tower. Further deterioration will require additional treatment, including sandblasting and the associated containment at a higher expense. Sandblasting would require erecting a canvas canopy over the 180-foot tall tower to contain the dust and the paint particles, and also extending or trying to extend the life of the existing paint would adversely affect water quality on the inside of the tank. So the Royalton Water Tower, why are we talking about that? This is the city of St. Joseph. It's one of the shared system assets along with the St. Joseph City Water Plant. So the cost for maintenance for that structure is part of the 591 fund that Ben just covered. And so that's basically why that's included here. It's supported by a population of 30,000 in the townships and the city, as opposed to just maybe 9,000 for the city alone. Dixon is a consulting engineering firm specializing in the evaluation and preparation of specifications and contract documents for coating water towers and water tanks, concrete tanks, and for construction thereof. So they've been in business since 1981. They've done extensive work for the city of St. Joseph in terms of the 2009 filter sealing repaint at the water plant, the 2011 clarifier and low service pump repaints. They've inspected our drinking water reservoirs, our water towers. They've done work for other communities, Bay City, Waterford Township, Albion, Northville, Birmingham, City of Portage. So they have extensive experience. So what we're looking at is, given that we're moving this up in terms of priority, we're asking you to amend the budget, and this would be a net decrease in the budget. So we were going to do the city tower first. That'll be part of the DWSRF application, and we'll be done. We'll learn about that and whether or not we're successful in obtaining that funding in August. So we are looking at a $380,400 decrease in the water fund budget, but at a $300,000 increase. So we're coming in at $80,400 less for the amended budget. So what we're seeking here is an amended budget, and then approval for Dixon Engineering to conduct engineering on the recoating the paint project for the Royalton Tower water project. So at this point, design engineering will run about 2 months. We'll go out for bids. We should get favorable bids given that the project will be done during the summer. We have the flexibility to take that tower out of service during the summer. Most communities don't have that flexibility. They do their work during the shoulder seasons, spring and fall. That work will take 2 months subsequent to design and bidding. So we're looking at finishing it by the end of the summer. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions?
they can understand the, what's going on, and it's, it's a specialized skill. Not just anybody can paint a water tower, and certain standards, as he described, must be met. So you got to be very selective on that.
How long can you expect one paint job to last for in a water tower?
Well, the reason we're looking at this is this water tower was constructed in 2007. So here we are in 2026, about 15 to 20 years. That is the expected life, and basically they're just brush blasting and power washing the exterior, and that is pretty inexpensive. If we do that now, we can extend the life of the tower another 15 to 20 years. So to answer your question, basically, if we wait 30 years, but we jeopardize the condition of the tower, we jeopardize the water quality on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is part of the asset management plan that we are trying to keep our things nice for longer periods of time. So, yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
No other questions from me? None from me.
I move to approve the professional services agreement from Dixon Engineering in the amount of $44,700 and to approve the budget amendment as presented for the Royalton Water Tower project.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? All right. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich.
Yes.
All right, electric distribution easement, Dickinson Park. Is that you?
Yes, I'll be pretty brief on this, but AEP has requested an easement from the city to provide electricity to the new restroom facility that's being built there. They are really not able to do anything else to get electricity there. It would be a 20-foot wide easement, and it largely follows right next to the sidewalk, except for a little cutout around an existing easement for telecommunications on the corner. So it's a pretty standard easement. It's not as descriptive as we sometimes have because we don't have a legal description, but we have a drawing that lays out the location of it. And the easement itself, I did ask that they would put language in to indicate it is a 20-foot wide easement adjacent to the sidewalk. So it provides a little bit more description in the document itself. And the exhibit is part of that. So it will be very close to that. It's just the exact legal description may vary slightly once it's built.
Okay. Any questions?
As a member of the Dickinson Park Subcommittee, it just, this brings us one step closer to, having that completed, and it's just been a very nice, improvement of that park, so. I would move to approve the proposed electric distribution easement from the city to Indiana, Michigan Power Company, 20 feet in width on the city property known as Dickinson Park, tax identification number of 11-76-0026-0106-00-5, subject to final approval and modifications approved by the city attorney, and to authorize the mayor to execute the easement on the city's behalf.
Second.
Any public comment on the matter? Please.
Question, 20-foot wide, so it's underground?
Yes.
Any other public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Betney.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, that is it for our new business. We are now on to reports. The Sustainability Committee wants to report on pollinator habitat program and Earth Week.
Thank you, Commission, for an opportunity to give you an update on what the Sustainability Committee has been thinking about. So towards the end of this month is Earth Week, which is a week of Earth Day, of course, taking place in April each year. So if we go to the next slide, one of the things we have worked on developing is a pollinator habitat certification for residents of the city. Thinking about why this would be something the city would create. Our community roots are agricultural. Pollinators, of course, play an essential part. If you don't have pollinators pollinating fruit trees or other food producers, then they don't ripen. They don't produce their actual fruit. St. Joseph is also right in the path of the annual monarch migration. They tend to migrate along the bluff. I can remember about a decade ago, first job out of college, going and sitting on the bluff and watching the butterflies in early to mid-September go down. And so in addition to that, we're a Bee City, we're a Michigan Green Communities Challenge Silver designee. And so there are a couple commitments there, including both rewarding our population for sustainable habits, as well as making more educational and outreach efforts on behalf of pollinators. Moving to the next slide. From a bigger picture beyond St. Joseph, butterflies and pollinators in general are in trouble. Xerces Society is the scientific organization that focuses on invertebrates in America, and they released their State of the Butterflies report this past year. They're also the sponsors behind Bee City. You can see here that up to 40, nearly half of pollinator species are at risk of extinction in the coming years. Primary drivers of that are habitat loss, as well as exposures to pesticides, and then diseases, pathogens, and climate change. Over the past 20 years in the Midwest alone, there's been a 17% decline in the numbers of butterflies, with 62 of our species experiencing that decline. At least 8 of our pollinators in Michigan are endangered currently, and that doesn't include historic ranges. So there are some easy actions that individuals can do as residents, primarily habitat restoration and connection, decreasing the use of pesticides, and then education and awareness. That brings us to our pollinator habitat certification. So in response to the environmental needs of our pollinators, and in order to further our commitment to Bee City and Michigan Green Communities, we've developed a habitat certification program to help incentivize people to increase healthy pollinator habitat in the city. So basically what this is an online or paper form that residents can fill out. Each month the sustainability committee will go through and they'll kind of tally up the score. And then residents can get a certificate from the commission kind of recognizing them for participating in the program at kind of their different level. So how holistic their habitat is for pollinators. If they opt into, there's a walking map that we can put together. I've found, as someone who does a lot of gardening, walking around the city, seeing other gardens, it's great to have that inspiration and kind of know who are some great neighbors to connect with and learn more about kind of how they've built their gardens. So in this certification, we'd be looking at 3 focus areas to establish what's positive habitat. And so that's plants and biodiversity. How useful are these plants to pollinators? How many species do they support? Do these plants provide food year round? So do you have blooms in the spring, summer, fall, etc.? Garden management, so that's primarily pesticide use. If you have an aphid infestation, are you using pesticides or are you spraying them off with the hose? Are you pruning disease or are you using fungicides, that sort of thing? And then finally, amenities, water and shelter are both necessities in order to support a thriving habitat. So on our next slide here, we have certification levels. And so this certification is designed to be accessible for everyone in the city. So no matter the amount of property that a city resident has, whether they're a renter or an owner, maybe just a small spot on a balcony, maybe they have a full backyard, some level of certification and recognition for their efforts should be achievable. And so you can see here the different levels from egg to butterfly. Butterflies' life cycles make a very visual representation of kind of the change going on here. And so they kind of made the great metaphor here. But really our emphasis and point here was that every small step makes a difference. And so we want to recognize everybody no matter where they are. They don't need to necessarily have an extensive knowledge of non-pesticide use, of native plants, of creating habitat, etc. Every effort is welcome. And then real quick, the Sustainability Committee is also working on organizing an Earth Week cleanup activity. So going to the next slide, that would take place on Saturday, April 18th. The city would provide cleanup supplies, garbage bags and gloves that are pretty standard for what we do when someone requests hosting a beach cleanup activity or event. We'd encourage residents to go out into their neighborhoods and pick up trash or litter. Encourage them to post on social media and just share and participate in community. There's also the potential, I think, in future years to expand this to potentially include conduct a trash audit. That's something that could score us points with migraine initiatives. And it also tells you a little bit about the trash makeup and composition in the neighborhoods. What types of litter are we seeing? You know, are there any programs that we could put in place to help kind of curb or stem that, or education that we could do specifically targeted to that? So that's kind of it.
Thank you. As a member, are you still on it, Michael? Any words of wisdom from your vantage point?
It's, you know, the sustainability committee is a newer among all of the subcommittees that the city has, you know, but in the last couple of years, it's really kind of gearing up and starting to find, you know, different ways that we can take action. And, you know, thank you, Kayla, for helping the committee come up with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I've heard that they're doing all these different things and never knew what it was. And so it's helpful to see what some of these different committees are coming in. So thank you for coming and presenting and letting us know what's happening. Any other questions? There's no action item on this. You're just letting us know. Yeah, let's report out. All right, well, thank you very much. All right, that concludes our agenda, minus our study session coming up, but we'll take city manager comments first.
I just have a few quick things. Congrats to the YMCA. Congrats to Silver Harbor. I saw Jamie sneak out, but congrats to them on their anniversary as well. And then we've been in touch with our friends at Indiana Michigan Power. They are hosting an open house tomorrow night from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Hidden Point Event Hall, 1050 Nickerson Avenue, related to the Benton Harbor Area Improvements Project. This is about upgrading about 3 miles of transmission line along the St. Joseph River, 0.5 miles of transmission line between Fisherman's Road and Industrial Court, and 2.5 miles of transmission line between Industrial Court and Main Street Substation. So part of that relates to St. Joseph, and I wanted to make sure folks were aware of it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
How about commission comments?
La única cosa que yo quiero decir es vamos azul. Steve, you know what that means? Let's go blue.
All right, we still have time for that, but. Any others? No, nothing else. All right. The only thing I wanted to share is April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. All of us have jobs outside of what we do here. So my job outside of here is at the Children's Advocacy Center of Southwest Michigan. So we deal with children who've been physically and sexually abused. If there's any information that you want about what we have going on this month, please see me. You can also call the Children's Advocacy Center. We have a lot going on as far as trainings, fundraisers, lots of things. It's obviously a very important topic in my career. So if anyone has questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. With that, we'll take a brief recess to reset, and then we will come back for our study session, maybe in 5 minutes. Okay?
I'm signing.
All right, we're back in session for our study session. Emily, am I letting you kick this off or who's leading this conversation?
I think really this is Ben's show.
Okay.
So
Ben.
I will turn it over to him. Ben, you need a microphone though. I'm sorry, I'm so busy with my jelly beans.
There's that one up there too. We can snag that.
We have 3 that are charged.
We got one from the podium.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have some mics. That's nice too. Perfect. All right, we can start, Ben.
Okay. All right, so just like last year, we're going to go through the different funds. If you go to page 251, which is the second page of the handout I just gave you. In the financials here, the thank you. The first 3 funds we're going to talk about are consolidated into one in our financials. The General Fund 101, the Budget Stabilization Fund 102, and the Cemetery Fund 209. They're all combined. The General Fund is the main fund for the city. Everything would be posted here unless it's otherwise specified to go somewhere else. The Budget Stabilization Fund was set aside as $1 million. It requires 2/3 of governing action of the body to manipulate. This was a great idea. Many communities did it. However, I don't like it. It kind of handcuffs us. And the cemetery fund is the operations of the cemetery. All 3 of those are combined to the general fund. Next thing we'll talk about are 3 street funds. If you remember, Act 51 is broken down into 2 flavors. It's a major street fund and a local street fund. We happen to have most of our activity in the local side, which gets the least amount of money from the state. And so we have the municipal street fund, which is 204. That is the fund that we siphon off a portion of the general fund millage, 3.55 mils. That's where that money goes. And we use that fund to fund the road projects for 202 and 203. Without that fund, we wouldn't be able to do nearly what we have, we're able to do. And you'll see in the capital project slide, everything coming out of 202 or 203 for infrastructure has a component of 204 to fund it. Without that, Act 51 just is not enough. Okay, then we have the depot fund, which is the Silver Beach Pizza building. The revenue from that is the 2 rents, Silver Beach Pizza and Amtrak. And then the only expense we have out of there is some small miscellaneous projects just for small little upkeep things. And then the insurance, MMRMA. The rubbish fund is the rubbish millage. That's the PA 298 taxes. And we use that fund to pay for the operations of the rubbish system. Then we have 3 law enforcement funds. The 264 is the training fund. That's state money segregated and put aside for training of public safety officers. And then the next 2 funds, if you remember when Steve bought the flock cameras?
Mm-hmm.
The flock cameras, we used funding from the 265 and 266 because those programs are defunct. They're not operational. And we will, after that purchase is done, those 2 funds will go away.
Okay.
Then we have the band fund, which is the PA 230 taxes, and that pays for the band operations. And we have some projects out of there for the band shell.
And that's a millage, correct?
Millage, yep. Then we have the debt service fund. That's the 301 fund, and that's also millage fund, and that's from the millage-backed bonds. And that will go away next year. Next year's the last year for that. Then that loan will be paid off, and we'll look at that. The next item is the debt summary. Then we have our 3 capital project funds. The 401 fund is the main one that sees all the action. That's where we have the majority of our capital projects from. Then we have state Street Rehabilitation Project Fund, which was set aside years ago, but it's just been sitting there. If you remember last year, we briefly talked about it during the budget cycle, and I put transfers to move that money that was taken from the 202, the 590 fund, which is the sewer fund, the 592 fund, which is the city water fund, and move that back because that fund has just been sitting there. They used to, years ago, if you remember, we used to have a capital project fund for each project.
No.
And this was done years ago, but nobody did anything with it because of the change in finance directors. So we just reversed that out, and this will be a last year you'll see that fund. Then we have the Lighthouse Capital Improvement Fund, and that is funded from the general fund. That just houses money in case we need to have something done with Lighthouse. Then we're going to talk about the permanent fund that you control, the Cemetery Trust Fund. And that's just funded from investments and then transfer out to the cemetery fund if needed. Then we have the three enterprise funds, the sewer fund, the water fund, which is the 591 fund, which we talked about earlier. That's the system water. And then the city system development fund, which is the city water fund. So of your water bill, there are three components, and each entity, us and the three townships, all have some flavor of this structure where we have the system, which is the 591 fund, which funds the whole system like Greg's plants and maintenance of the towers. Then we have the city sewer fund, which is only for City of St. Joseph sewer infrastructure. And then the city water fund, which is only for the City of St. Joseph water infrastructure. And those two, the 590 and 592, we're going to circle back to later when we talk about the proposed rates that I need your help with. Then move on to the internal service funds. The motor pool fund is what we use for the cost accounting for the Act 51 Schedule C. When a truck or equipment is used in another fund, we allocate some of that expense back to this fund, which then funds the replacement of that equipment. Then we have the self-insurance fund, which is used for the employee or the employer expenses for unemployment, life insurance, and workers' comp. And then the health insurance fund, which we talked about back in December when we changed our health insurance. That's where the expense is coming out of 690. Then we have some non-budgeted funds, the fiduciary funds. This is money that we hold for other people or other uses. First one is the pension fund, and those of you on the pension board familiar with this fund, this is the funding the operations of the pension. And then we have the custodial funds, the general agency fund, the current tax collection fund, and then housing payroll. The housing payroll fund is just a function to allow the housing payroll to happen. They pay us back, so that's net zero. The tax collection fund also net zero because as we collect taxes in that fund, we distribute all that money out to wherever it's going. And then the 7-1 fund holds some money and like the fire escrow money that we're just holding on until something can be done with it. And then the remaining funds are on our books, but not under your control. We have the library fund, which is the main operations of the library. They have a capital projects fund, 471, and they also have a permanent fund for their endowment. And then we have the enterprise fund, the marina fund. And then the two component units, the brownfield and the DDA. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay.
No.
So next thing I want to talk about real quick is the debt. I don't believe in my time here that we have ever given you a summary of where our debt stands. So if you remember when every year we have to file the continuing disclosure reports, and those do a really good job of defining our debt limit. But real quickly, the debt limit is roughly 10% of your SEV, state equalized value. And we are well under that. It looks like we have more, but a lot of our debt is exempt because it is funded from fees. And the loans that are exempt are the, on page 259, the fire truck installment purchase agreement, the CSO debt refinancing, which will go away this year and next year in next year's budget, the library renovation, and then the 2009 issue. I'm trying to find it real quick.
The third one, 2009, on the right.
It's number, hold on, I've lost it. number, it's on page 261, and the loan number is 237, it's the first one on the left. The principal amount for those make up your debt service. It is under the state's limit. Everything else has a separate limit because we've exempted it. And everything else is exempted by resolution, and that limit for all the other funds, the preceding 2 years' revenue, average revenue, unless the current year revenue is lower, that is as much principal as you can have, and we are well under that. And because we just saw when we did the rate for the 591 fund we just approved, when we do the Waterworth model, a portion of our cash reserve is the actual debt service. So as long as we follow a function like that, we will never be above our debt limit. The other thing I want to point out is on page 260. Look at the second from the right, the 5775 loan. That's the most recent one we've done. That's for the CSO Early Action Project. That interest is not set yet because the state program, it's a really cool program. You draw down your loan like a grant, so you upfront the expense and you request reimbursement. Because of that process, the interest is not set at the time of the loan. They start it a little bit early because that gives the entities incentive to actually finish their project. So they start early, which starts the clock, and then as we draw down and we finalize the loan, then our interest will be finalized. So that's why I have that in italics there. So this is just a summary of the loans and where they stand. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the proposed projects. So just like last year, I just want to run through them real quick. Page 263. So the first one we have happening in next year is $50,000 for the community aided dispatch.
That was in this budget, CAD and two-factor authentication. Under our lien audit, we have to be two-factor authentication. And all of Berrien County is going to CAD computer aided dispatch, which is going to show every squad car in Berrien County to be assist dispatch, knowing where it's at, keeping them safe. And they'll also be able to see the history of the calls they're going on, if there's weapons involved, what the history of the.
Which item is that? I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm
Oh,
following
yeah,
along
so
correctly.
that's, you see in the FY27 column?
Yep.
The very first value, 50 grand,
Oh, yeah.
it's right there.
Some of this is being paid for.
It's 2 rows above the first yellow row.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So the next one is the parking lot or the pier parking lot reconstruction. And that is the one, Greg, you'll have to help me, that we broke into multiple years last year at this time when we were talking about this.
Yeah, so this essentially is the lot across the street. Total estimated construction of that would be like $1.8 million. It would, depending on how we constructed it, would happen potentially over 2 fiscal years. You know, maybe it's like a winter project or late summer project, or maybe it is within 1 year, depending on how we wanted to approach it. There is some savings to just rip the Band-Aid off and do it versus phase it, you know, where you have part of the lot available to you versus while one side is under construction. So those numbers reflect a phased approach to a reconstruction of that lot.
And that phased approach was sort of designed because of the importance of that lot for the businesses that have folks who come and park there, as well as the employees who park there and beachgoers. And not having it fully out of commission at any one time, so that there would still be some accessibility and use. And we would stretch it out at an expense to the city, but continuing to provide parking. So there's trade-offs there. It doesn't have to be done this way. There's still a couple of fiscal years before we get there. But that's how it is currently in the budget.
The next one I want to touch on is the body cameras, and this next year will be the last year of our current contract, so we have a placeholder of 40 grand per year out there. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
That's our Axon in-car cameras and our body cameras. We'll be on the 5th year of our agreement. We'll have to sign a new agreement that'll come before you in June of the coming year, next June.
The next one is zoning ordinance codification. That is a project that's supposed to happen this year, but we had to delay it slightly. And so that's just remaining budget allocated over the next 2 years.
So that one was, this is to fully revamp the zoning ordinance, which I couldn't be more excited about. With a change in staffing that has not happened this budget year, this fiscal year. We left $20,000 in the budget. Am I looking at the right line?
Yeah.
I got lost. $20,000 in the budget, in hopes that Dalton could get an RFP out the door and get someone selected. At this point, I'm not optimistic, and so we might end up rolling still more into fiscal 27. But right now, we do have a bit in this fiscal year, just in case he can get it going.
Okay.
So the next one is Light Up the Bluff, which every year we put 20 grand in. After that, it's Riverfront Trail.
Sorry, I'm going to keep commenting. Just to make sure everyone understands that 20K every year is for enhancements or improvements to the existing lights.
It's maintenance and improvements to the existing display. So replacement of an arch, redoing the big Light Up the Bluff arch at the far end, LED lights, they paint and sandblast the structure. They strip off all the old lights. It's a big display. There's a lot. So every year we send pieces of it in to be rehabbed. We've been doing this now for about 8 years. We're almost through the display once. And at that point, it's going to be 10 plus years, which would be about where we started. So it must be time to start working our way back through it again. So.
Next one, yep. Next one is Riverfront Trail. Again, we put 10 grand every year. Then we have
And-
go ahead.
I'm sorry. If I remember correctly, we don't typically end up spending much of
No,
this.
yeah,
We
it's-
have not had
I
a lot
think
of
it's just
opportunity.
in
But
case.
it's here in case we do have the opportunity.
Yep.
But that's along like through the Arboretum, right?
No.
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 It's like, this is maybe going back along the river. So if you go,
Like
is that east?
Clementines.
If you go east from, by Clementines or from the hospital, back behind the private homes, there's an interest in developing a path. And so this would
Oh,
be
yeah.
about paying for an easement.
Okay.
In order to get access to it. The residents are, I would say, largely not interested.
Okay.
This is not being spearheaded by the city.
Right.
This has been spearheaded, I think, by
Berrien
Friends
County.
of
Berrien County.
Friends of Berrien County. I know the city has been supportive. We have some easements that I don't think we've had to pay for, but there's money here in case there are folks who are interested. But
Okay.
we are not, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not actively pursuing it.
Sign over easements. There have been people that said they would do it.
Yeah.
After the meeting they had, I think it kind of put them together.
Sounds like there was a very ugly meeting a year or two ago. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it did not go well from what I understand.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Next one is taser replacement, very similar to the body cameras. And I think we have 2 more years on that. So
2
we
years left.
we did not budget further. Next year, we'll know more, and then we can budget a better amount going forward. And then the next one of the brand new projects is citywide IT upgrades. If you remember when we approved the contract, I said we were going to put some money aside because when they actually get their hands on our equipment and they tell us what needs to be replaced or what doesn't, this is that pot of money that we'll use for that purpose. Next one is mobile portable encryption. Steve, I'll need help with that.
Yes, definitely. So during the lien audits, MSP and the FBI advised that our lien channel must be encrypted by the end of 2027. We got a bill from or an invoice from Telerad to do that project. It came in about $82,000. And there is no funding available for the encryption.
Unfunded mandates.
Yes.
Gotta love it.
Horrible.
Next one is public works yard paving. Greg?
So I think as many of you have done tours down at Public Works, you know what the condition of our yard is. So this would be kind of a continuation of what we've done over the last few years. This year specifically would be addressing the back side of the building where we built the new storage building. As part of that construction, a lot of that got tore up. We had to run power underground. Due to construction costs, we weren't able to accommodate paving of that. So this would be essentially paving that back area of our yard where most of the traffic happens in front of the new structure.
Next one is public works roof repairs.
This would be over what is known as the parks area of the building. It's the oldest part of the building. It has some active leaks that when it rains, we've got to put some buckets under. But it's just replacement of that roof, which is the oldest roof on the building at this point.
Next one is the Mako air filtration station.
So our Mako system, it fills our firefighter air tanks for fighting fire. It's a self-contained breathing apparatus. That system is the same age as the fire department, which I believe was constructed in the mid-90s, maybe 95, 96. We're having a hard time getting parts for that system, and so we bid out a new system.
Okay.
Next one is election equipment upgrade.
Yeah, so this is also another requirement by the state. And it's basically every 10 years we have to update the voting equipment. So the tabulators and the VAT machines that are at each precinct. They submit RFPs, they get proposals. Those go to like committees for recommendations. I believe right now they're in it's called a joint evaluation committee, which is different representatives from local municipal and county representatives that go through all the proposals and make recommendations. And these are, I believe 10 years ago, they had 3 different companies that the county could choose from. And then like Dominion was the company that we went with in 2017. So right now it's still in that evaluation stage. So they gave us $15,000 per precinct. And then if you have an AV counting board, it's an additional $8,000 per precinct. So we have 3 precincts, so it's $15,000. And then we have an AV counting board that has 3 tabulators there, so it's $8,000 per in this. So that's just kind of where we're at. It's just an estimate on cost, but.
Yeah, we have the placeholder for it. And then we have in-car radios.
So our in-car radios and our squad cars are original to the 800 megahertz. They're about 20 years old. Concerned they're going to fail us one day and they won't be under warranty anymore through Telerad. So we're looking to upgrade that equipment.
And then we have an internal defibrillator.
So the whole city has defibrillators, Public Works, the library, us, I believe the marina. They're at their expiration of 10 years. So they'd replace the entire city's AEDs.
Then we have the historical document, which we just looked at, these things. There's not only these, but then Abby has other documents downstairs that we need to get restored. These, about 1.5 years ago, we got an estimate done. It was about $5,000. So we're hoping to do these and then see what else we have and then proceed from there. Okay, now we're going to move to where we have a placeholder in 28 and Paddler Park development.
Last meeting, we talked about Paddler Park and the grant application. Essentially, this is that placeholder for that project that if awarded a grant, and then Harbor Shores would be the match. But with the grant process, the city would have to fund the project and then receive the grant dollars and the contribution from Harbor Shores back. So money in, money out kind of thing.
We need the placeholder so we can pay first and then get
Correct.
reimbursed.
And
Yeah.
what's the final amount that we're going to be responsible for?
Don't know, but
But yet.
hopefully it's a little bit, very little, but we'll see what it ends up.
The tough part is we're gonna have cash for that, for the cash flow. So we're gonna have to build the 401 budget to accommodate that. Even though we're gonna get reimbursed, we still have to upfront the money. Next one is Public Works Storage Building number 2.
So as I just mentioned, we did have the building we built last summer. This building too would replace a building that we actually tore down that was not usable. So the building that we built improved our storage capacity for our materials that are required to be undercover and gave us some storage space. This building would replace a building that we had to tear down. So this doesn't improve it, just replaces something. Right now, I'd say we're at a deficit for our storage capacity because we had to lose that building. But it was in such poor condition, it was, by our building department, tagged as had to be torn down. So that's what we did.
Then we have Riverview Park restroom renovation.
So this would be the restroom at the bottom of the hill as you come into the park. Over the last few years, we've done these renovations of some of our park restrooms to bring them up to ADA standard. They, at the time of construction, they met ADA. Some of these are, in this case, this one's probably over 30 years since it was last addressed in a substantial way. So an improvement, but also to bring them up to the latest standard. So Kiwanis Park is one that we've redone. We redid the restrooms at Woodbine Lodge as a couple examples of ones we did some pretty substantial renovations to and improved it.
Tuscarnia restroom renovation.
Essentially the same thing, just improving what we have. Tuscarnia has been a little more recent in the last renovation, but it's also probably our most heavily used restroom during the summer months. So it's about improving, but also addressing improvements to ADA.
Cemetery road repair.
If you've driven through the cemetery, you'll understand. We've just kind of patched it along. I suspect a lot of those roads within the cemetery, the internal cemetery roads, are original to parts of the cemetery, which would be 60s. So we're holding it together, but in some places it's getting pretty bad.
Is it Riverview Cemetery?
Yes.
What's that other cemetery that we have?
There's City Cemetery on Lakeview, and then there's Highland Cemetery on Brown School Road.
That's the one that's almost non-existent.
Correct.
Not utilized.
Correct.
Right.
There's burials out there, but it's not actively
Right.
used in any way. Yep.
Okay, make sure we weren't talking about that one.
No.
Arboretum walking path.
This would be the asphalt walking path through the Arboretum. In some places, tree roots over the years have just buckled that path. So much like what we did to Milton a few years ago, would be going in, removing the asphalt, cutting out the roots, and repaving the walking path.
Fountain cannon stands.
So the 8 large cannons that surround the fountain, all those are original. The environment in which they're in, the sand, everything else, the fact that those cannons are shooting chlorinated water have taken its toll on those stands. Several years ago, we did a paint and sandblast of those. It has held up pretty well considering the environment it's in. They're starting to show their wear again to the point where the steel at the base wouldn't probably tolerate another sandblast. So we should consider replacement of those stands.
Ice arena flooring.
This is for like the warming hut, and as you go out to the rink, all the rubber mats that are out there, those are all original to the building. So they're 20 plus years old at this point. When installed, they were all together and then there were no gaps, but over the years it's worn off and pushed apart. Now you have these gaps and we're always trying to fix it. There's better products on the market now that we can utilize. So it'd be just replacing that.
City Hall parking storm drain.
In the back parking lot, a few years ago, we redid half the lot when we addressed the ADA parking behind City Hall, and we redid the storm drain. There's a second storm drain closer to the alley. That one is failing and getting worse every year. So it's just kind of a rehab of that storm structure to do the repair around it. And we'll do that in concrete. So that way it'll last longer and we can maintain the drainage correctly.
Disc golf course design, Riverview.
So Riverview Park, one of the big takeaways for many years and comments that come up in our Parks Master Plan has always been disc golf for Riverview Park. I think every year there's a couple residents that reach out and say, hey, is that happening? And that was something that was part of the Riverview specific Park Master Plan we did in 2018, was for a disc golf course. So this would be the design, what that would look like. And then after that, we'd look at what construction would be in implementation.
Kiwanis Park Master Plan.
For several years, going back to 2018, we had been doing some individual park master plans in addition to the larger 5-year plan, which is very, very broad in its nature. These are very specific in the idea of how we're going to move forward with that park. Kiwanis has really evolved here quickly with the Kaleidoscope Playground. Next meeting, there'll be a group talking about the skate park and what they want to do there. And I understand the Kaleidoscope group has kind of a vision for a phase 2 as well. It'll be more premised around the pavilion potentially. So how does that all fit? Where does it all go? How do things potentially change? Like the skate park group would like to move the skate park potentially to the back of Kiwanis from its current location up front. So it would go back behind the large parking lot. The Kaleidoscope group would like to move the pavilion somewhere else and utilize more parking near the playground. So those are just some of the thoughts that are out there, but this master plan would help kind of get the input of the community, put these visions together. And so we have a cohesive plan so that we can kind of move it all forward.
Then we have painting a City Hall public safety side.
This would be repainting the interior of the fire department.
Then we have city carpet, second floor hallway and waiting area, and the city carpet commission chambers. Those are both in 28. Then we have parking lot 07 Strawberry and 09 Peach for 31 and 32. Does anyone have any questions on the 401? Right now, I have tentatively everything in the 27 column is in. And like I said before, we're trying to make sure we target cash to cover Peddler Park. So we'll see how that goes. And next meeting, we'll see a draft of the budget where we should have this in place. Okay, then moving on to the 591 fund, which we just talked about. These are the same projects there. Greg was talking about that paying the authority and the city towers. We also have the continuation of the north intake cleaning. The new one on there is the SCADA upgrades. Greg, do you want to cover that?
And the existing SCADA instrumentation being used for some control of data acquisition. So this is how we run the water plant. This is how we collect information. It is not supported by the current version of I think Microsoft. What's the product? But it has to be upgraded for that reason, and then the hardware as well should be upgraded. So that's what's happening.
Just true.
Then we have a low service pump station.
That is to rebuild the cabin screen in the south pump station. $75,000 installed in about 1987. The cost to replace is $250,000 for the pump that we build that.
And then the filter terminator, terminators.
Turbidimeters are measured, the continuous online instruments that measure turbidity required under the England Enhanced Surface Water Treatment Rule, if I got that right. The existing instruments, there are some glitches where occasionally they read every second of every day. There are high reads, and we don't know if that's a ground situation or the environment that they're in, but people had cited the city as an efficiency, so we need to replace them. There's about $7,000. Existing turbidimeters are 2018, so we should probably have gone longer, but something that was going to replace. We're still studying it. We can solve it, but we don't know what's there.
And then moving into the future, we have the water treatment plant roof. And this is a project that WSGOB talked about. And we initially had it spread amongst 2 years, but we decided to combine it into one. Greg, do you want to explain where that is?
And then on the roof, you may recall that it's a change order for the sedimentation basin projects. Commission did approve the roof over set basins 2. So that part's done. And this is the remainder of the roof. Just the roof is 30 years old.
Then we have HVAC improvements.
The existing humidifier is no longer service and functional. It dates back to the 1970s. We're looking at replacing HVACs. That's a very damp environment. And that's what that issue is. That's what that equipment functions to do.
And then filter 5 through 8, replace center drains.
Filters 5 through 8 date to 2007, and we're looking at replacing the drains in PBI.
And then lab improvements.
Lab improvements, 31, 32, basically bringing the plant lab back up to standard. We do not have a fluid to work with chemicals that produce fumes, so that needs to be done as upgrading a 1974 facility. And the breakthrough out of the laboratory that gets in class.
And the last one on the 5-1 list is the renovate of the West 1931 building and demo of the East, as sad as that is to me.
So this is the 1931 Gothic building, but not functional for water treatment. And there's a cost associated with keeping it, and this is the cost associated with tearing it down and replacing it with some other function. We should not have enough space at the water plant, that space, and this is the cost. For that.
So these group of projects were talked about during WSGOB, and we agreed on this timing and the amounts. And we just saw them on the water rate presentation. Okay, next set is the motor pool capital project request. Greg, do you want to start with the water and sewer service truck?
Yeah, so the water and sewer service truck is probably our frontline truck when it comes to really anything on the water and sewer side. So water main break, sewer, sewer backup. That truck responds. It has all the tools that the staff would need. It's on every repair. It is our daily driver on that side of the division. So the truck that we currently have is, I think it's a 2017. Fortunately, we've had to repair the frame several times. We've been told it's not because we're overloading it. It's just a defect in manufacturing. How many more times should we replace a vehicle that we need to depend on? We can't really be without because of its criticality to our operation. So this would be the replacement of that truck. This would be an upsize of the truck from what we currently use because of the issues that we're having, and talking with the vendors, and they're recommending just a bigger truck, thus bigger chassis, and can handle some of the work and load that we're using it for. So that's the water service service truck.
And then we have replace car 12 and 14. Steve, that's you, I think.
Select cars that are driven 24 hours a day, 70 days a week, and they never shut off. They'll be at their end of cycle next year.
Then 1-ton dump truck.
Yes. So this is a truck that's primarily used by the parks crew for any number of projects. most of you probably have seen it in the winter months. We put a salt spreader in the back to do our parking lots, city hall parking lots. So our smaller locations, we'll run it through alleys because it's smaller, it's narrow to go through the alleys. But unfortunately, it is an older truck, and that use, the salt is not kind. So it is rusting out pretty significantly. So it is in need of replacement. Because of the nature of what we're doing when we load it up in the winter months with the salt, we are, like the service truck, we are upsizing a little bit to be able to handle the load that we're putting it under. So
Then we have a pickup truck with plow.
it's just a replacement of pickup trucks. Over the years, we've been replacing a lot of our passenger vehicles. And this would replace, I believe it's a 2011 pickup truck. So with a plow, which we use for parking lots, alleys, things like dead ends, places like that.
John Deere terrain cut with implements.
So the John Deere terrain cut is, I think most people in the community best know it as the green machine. You see it around town, downtown. We use it on sidewalks. This would actually be a second piece of equipment, much like the one we already have. So it's a versatile machine. So as I've said, we use it to plow the sidewalks in the downtown. We also use it to plow what we call the school route sidewalks. We use in the summer months to sweep sand off the streets, off the sidewalks. To better provide those services, we need a second one. So if it's snowing and we're using it downtown, we can't be doing school routes. When we're sweeping sand, in a location, we can't be doing it. Say we're sweeping sand below the bluff, we can't be sweeping sand, north of the river like at Tiscornia. So it gives us some versatility by having two of those pieces of equipment. And this winter, it was really glaring for that need because we didn't get to the school route sidewalks because it seemed to never stop snowing. So our focus was always the downtown sidewalks with that piece of equipment.
And last is a water meter repair vehicle.
So we have made some staffing changes in the last year. We used to have 2 water meter readers. We've reduced that down to just 1 meter reader, but we've added a water meter repair person. So we have 2 of those positions. They're the ones that primarily, to Ben's earlier presentation, they're doing a lot of the meter replacements. Having the second person will help us try to stay on track. Over the years, we have not kept up. So the meters only last about 20 years and they fail. And it's almost like clockwork, how those failed right at that 20-year mark, so we're behind, whether we go to MAMI or not. We need to be on track and replacing some of these meters because they're going to stop working and then we're not going to be able to read them. So this vehicle provides a matching vehicle to the one that we have. It's a van. So all their equipment, all their parts, everything is on that vehicle so that they don't have to run back and forth to get things that they need. It's all right there for them. They can pull a meter out of a house. They can go into the truck, do a repair, replace seals, go back in and reinstall it. Where in the past, several years ago, they pull a meter, they'd run back to Public Works, do the repair and go back because, in the middle of January, trying to work on something that's wet and cold outside, not fun. So this improves our efficiency in getting this stuff done.
So those are the 661 projects. And again, like we're just talking about, these are funded from other funds by the Act 51 rates. So we use cost accounting in our system to charge those funds, and that revenue is then transferred to this fund to fund these projects. Okay, now let's talk about the infrastructure projects. And these are all for the, I guess, the better effort that we've done since I've been here. The road funding, the water funding, and the sewer funding are all together on these. So if we change one, we are able to change all 3. So we'll start with the CSO storage phase 2. That's the project Tim was just talking about. Tim, do you want to explain that one?
I don't know. Do you have any questions from the meeting? We talked about it quite a bit, so.
No.
Then we have Anchors Way drainage.
Anchorage Way drainage, the road floods down there. It actually could breach during periods of high lake levels. It's a problem for the joint wastewater treatment plant staff to get there to work, plus the marinas and everything. We did receive a high water infrastructure grant from the state of Michigan to help us with the design. We just submitted for a Michigan Infrastructure Office Technical Assistant Grant to apply for federal funding. The federal grants are so complex that you actually need a grant to apply for the grant, if you will, in order to fill out the application. They want you to do a cost benefit analysis. And, but by any means, we're trying to get more grant funding because there's a strain on our street funding with the other projects we have going on.
And then we have the sewer rehabilitation, the CIPP.
The CIPP, again, that picture you saw tonight with all the leaking sewers, this is something that we should be doing on a regular basis. It kind of goes with the asset management plan, both from a structural and standpoint on sewers. You don't want them to collapse. That's obviously a problem. But if we can get more of that wet weather flow out of them, it's going to help us too. If we don't do this, we could very well build a storage tank for the infiltration we have right now and have a problem in the future because we keep getting more and more of it.
And then Main Street.
Main Street, you've heard about that a lot. Some of the numbers here, we did get a $3.9 million TAP. It's a Transportation Alternatives Program grant. That's for the eligible streetscape portions. Another big dollar amount that the state will help us on is the water main. In replacing the water main, if it's in direct conflict with other utilities, they basically pay for the whole thing. They're telling me that they're going to pay almost $5 million of the cost of the water main. I do want to upsize that when we do it. We would pay that additional upsize cost. I am a little afraid. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop with MDOT, because if they determine that some of the areas aren't in direct conflict, then we're going to be left holding the bag.
And they're the ones making that determination if it's in direct conflict.
Yes, well, the design team's been very friendly about it, but I was on a call, I was telling Ben earlier today, it's a couple months back, and the guy that actually does that was getting really sticky about it. So, like I say, hopefully it will come in where they're estimating. I did push up our numbers a little bit, but we'll see where we land.
And then Water Street retaining wall.
Water Street retaining wall is something I'm trying to get to. It is fairly complicated. The design work's very specialized on that, but we did do monitoring a couple different times. I think the last time we did it was just after COVID, so around the 2021 timeframe, and the wall really wasn't moving, but it's been a bit. And I think I said this before, when a retaining wall fails, it does it catastrophically. So we want to get out in front of it where you actually kind of soil nail it, and then like we want to put a new veneer on it and that sort of thing. So that needs to get up on my list.
Safe Streets for All.
Safe Streets for All, we did receive the State Streets for All grant. It's a $300 total project. 60 of it is our match. The other 240 is by the state. We have met, they awarded a bunch of these, and it took a while just to meet with our caseworker, if you will, or the person that's managing the project. We also had another opportunity that Steve brought to us where they can monitor traffic using global positioning satellite, and there's other applications for it. We think that will be eligible, so we're going to try to add it into the grant. We have talked to Tim Drews over at AppMarsh. He thinks it's worthwhile at least trying out a year of that. So I think we've got some really neat things we can do with that grant.
Hawthorne Lift Station.
Hawthorne Lift Station, and we talked about in the meeting.
Lead service replacements. That shouldn't be new to anyone.
Right. The one thing that I will tell you, if I haven't already said it, is in 2026, we will fall out of the replacement rate schedule. So you're required to replace 5% of your lead services every year. So in 20 years, you want to be done. The federal government actually is making that at a more increased pace. But by any means, we've applied now. This will be the third year in a row that we're applying for DWSRF funding to replace lead services. It's very competitive. I don't know if we're going to get it. I think what you'll see in Ben's scenarios
That
that are
next.
upcoming
Yep.
is that we're looking at alternative funding sources.
Yeah.
And working with the county, but that would be at a higher interest rate. So,
And then we have Lions Park Drive.
that's a crush and shape is what we want to do right there, Greg. And what we're trying to do is do a crush and shape down at Anchors Way. So you basically go in, when you have a road that doesn't have curb and gutter for the most part, you can go in and just grind up all the asphalt and then you regrade it. Sometimes you pull some of it away. We're not going to want to do that on Anchors Court actually is where we want to do that and into the boat launch ramp. Because we've determined that there's contaminated soils there, so we'll actually be raising the road a bit. But we want to do it down at Anchors Court first to kind of cut our teeth on it, and then we'd be moving to Lions Park Drive. So we're actually in the design phase of the Anchors Court crush and shape right now.
Upton Drive Phase 2.
Sorry, Tim, is that all of Lions Park Drive?
No, it's just the upper road, I believe, and maybe the entrance road and the upper road.
Thought so too.
Upton Drive Phase 2 is from where we left off, Mominy Drive to the North City limits. We do have funding slated, STBG funding, that's Surface Transportation Block Grant funding in the amount of about $1 million to help us with the road eligible costs. So we want to keep that on track.
Sewer Clean and Televise Project.
That's another asset management type of thing where we go out and we clean and televise the sewers to see what the condition is so that we can prioritize the CIPP, the cured in place pipe rehabilitation of them.
And that's citywide?
That is citywide. We do it both on storm sewer and sanitary sewer.
State Street Rehabilitation, and I want to mention that as you're looking at these projects here, this is how we have them set, and this one has been moved around a bit. So when we move this around, we also have to think about moving the road and the water, two water components. So if it looks weird on the schedule, that's because we have been jogging some of this around.
We've been trying to get to this project for years, to be honest, but between different delays and now that it looks like the Marquette was going to be developed and Main Street, we want to push it off some. But then we also have the issue with the sewer fund and the dollars in the sewer and the street funds that we need to give ourselves some time to get there.
South State Street resurfacing.
We plugged in South State's resurfacing that.
Sorry,
really-
I'm so sorry. Can you just clarify for me? Fiscal 27 is 43,000. That's design on State Street?
I think that was for design. I'll be honest with you, I need to look at that. We put money all
Yeah,
over
we've
the
been-
place in
yeah.
order to make the
But
dollars.
the actual construction
Right.
you're targeting is
Yes.
fiscal
Yeah.
31.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Out of ways.
thank you.
South State resurfacing, we did that as part of one of the 5 priorities on how we replace lead service lines as we look at future project areas. And we hope to be able to get to reconstructing South State Street relatively soon, but that's just not going to happen. It's a wide road, so we're going to have to do some resurfacing in the meantime.
Harrison Area Sewer.
Harrison Area Sewer is, it's another one that we pushed off. This is a really complicated project in that there's a sewer that's in excess of 30 feet deep there. There was, I believe, a ravine that went through. They built the sewer and then they filled it in and they built houses on it. And it's an old brick sewer. It's in such poor shape. We tried to get it televised and cleaned and the guys came in from a company and said, yeah, we don't want to go any farther. There's only about 9 houses on it. So from the impact of how many customers it would impact, there's not many. But we're literally going to have to do, like we do with the lead service lines, the services, we're going to have to go reroute their sanitary services. So it's a very high touch project. It's going to be very expensive for the limited area that it really helps. And so we're just kind of monitoring it. And we have done a bunch of investigations, so we know where the sewers go. So we'll be able to go out there and take care of it when the time comes. But essentially what we're going to do is abandon that old deep sewer, reroute sewer, and reroute all the sewer services to this new shallower sewer.
Is that going to come at any cost to the residents there? That project?
No, we really can't
No.
because they Our ordinance requires if someone's sewer service fails, it's not like a water service. So water service from the curb stop and the tree lawn to the main is ours. And then from there into the home is theirs. With the sewer service, it goes all the way to the main, including the connection to the main. But in this case, they have service that works. So we can't really say you're gonna have to pay for this because we're the ones changing the sewer. So we're gonna have to pay for all of it.
Sure. Napier Avenue.
Napier Avenue, obviously it's in poor shape and we hope to get, we're going to apply for, again, surface transportation block grant funding in the next call for projects to try to get that reconstructed.
North Pier Lift Station.
North Pier Lift Station, just like the Elko Lift Station, is in poor condition. We keep bumping them. We're, kind of rolling the dice on that, but we just don't have the funding to get there. I know that Public Works has had to take some action to keep those running. But it's not ideal. I would like to get to it much sooner. It's just there isn't enough money with everything else.
Yeah, we'll explore that later. Myrtle and Riverwood.
Myrtle and Riverwood, they both have water main issues that we need to take care of. So that's how they got ranked where they got ranked.
Then Tim just talked about Elko. And the next three is Sunset Avenue and Mohawk, Morton and Kingsley, and Hillcrest Reconstruction. They're all showing here because we have them in the Waterworth model, but we just cannot put them in any sooner. Does anyone have any questions on the infrastructure?
No.
Okay. Okay. Last thing. So we need to set the rates for the sewer and the city water. We have, we go to page 267. We have developed two options. Option one
I'm sure he's not going to
assumes,
watch sports. I'm sure he's just off to do other business.
option one assumes we get the SRF funding and that the loan will be somewhere around 2.5%, which is very optimistic. As we know, we've applied the past 2 years and have not gotten it. For Hawthorne Lift Station and CSO Phase 2, option one was also debt heavy. We have debt for Upton Phase 2, Myrtle and Riverwood, and Harrison. And then all debt besides Hawthorne and CSO, which will be covered under the SRF if we get it, we're doing 3.5%. And what we're doing now as an alternative to the SRF, we're talking with Berrien County, the Economic Development Corporation, Dan Fetty. They have a process where you can use the county's full faith and credit to issue loans on your behalf. And actually, Benton Township used this process to build their water plant. And it was super popular a couple of years ago until all the money was in the SRF and everyone tried to apply for there because it was super cheap.
Yeah.
But now that's drying up and the grants have gone away, people are going back to the county to try and use that process. There's a couple of quirks about it. We'll talk about it if we ever get there. One of the big things is the actual county owns the thing that you're building because it's their money, their debt, and you lease it back to them. But it's,
Ben, if I could just
yeah.
jump in, it has kind of been a complete reversal, actually. Benton Township was using it because they weren't using the SRF. When they changed the scoring criteria, they gave a lot of points to overburdened and significantly overburdened communities. Benton Township has hugely benefited by that. They've gotten millions of dollars of grant funding. We don't qualify. They won't even look at us because of our, what is it, our MAHI.
yeah,
our-
medium area average
Yeah,
household income or
household
something,
income.
whatever it is, yeah.
So as soon as we plug that in, they say you're done. They're not looking at our rate increases or anything.
Yeah.
So now we're flipping over to looking at the county. The one last thing I will mention is it's not all bad news because the SRF program requires you to pay prevailing wage. We could actually see lower costs on our projects because there aren't as many
Requirements, yeah.
requirements, yeah. So.
Administratively,
Using-
it helps too.
Yeah.
Using the county
And
system.
the county can use their weight behind them to get a better rate than we ever could. So that's the benefit. And then, so option two has all debt at 3.5%. Hawthorne Lift Station pushed out, and then Upton, Myrtle, Riverwood, and Harrison, we are paying with cash, pay as we go. So let's turn to the next page. So this is the start of the bad news.
So I'm sorry, option 2 is the county only.
Yes, yep. So this is the Waterworth model for option 1. And at the bottom, I've listed the rates. And we're actually looking at a 17% increase starting next year. And it continues to go up because we have to continue funding the loan and the projects. And again, we're not approving anything beyond this year. In today's meeting, I just need your help to tell us which option to go with. And then next meeting, we'll have an agenda item for the actual rate approval. So we can run through the scenarios here. The next page is option 2. And this is a higher increase, but is less debt. And you can see the game here we're trying to do is keep that solid black line above the dotted black line. Then the next page is option 1 in the capital. Most of the projects are the same between the two options. You'll see as you flip between the pages, but we have moved some things around to try and make them fit. Page 271 is option 2 capital. And then the next slides, I'm just breaking out the individual debt for those two options. And the cash position for the two options. So we're looking for the sewer at option 1, a 20% increase, and option 2, or option 1 is a 17% increase, and option 2 is a 20% increase. Now let's talk about the water side, because as you know, most projects have water and a sewer, but then our sewer is the CSO project, that's the big driver, and on the water side is the lead service. So let's look at the options for the cash for the city water. Option 1 is at 8%, and option 2 is 11%. And then I'm listing the capital projects for both option 1 and option 2, and you can see on the water side of the house, option 1 or both options are kind of spiky, and that's because we're doing a lead service every other year for 2 years. So we have a big spike and then it drops off. And I'm just running through the debt for option 1, option 2, and the cash position, option 1, option 2. And then let's go to page 284, where we talk about what it'll cost to the individual ratepayer. So this on 284 is option 1 with, like what I was talking about during the 5-1 water rate. It's a typical user, which AWWA defines as 90 gallons per day per person and 3.2 household size. And then 1 CCF, which is the units we use to bill, is 748.052 gallons. So option 1 is going to see an increase for a bill with those specific use examples of $49.24 for the quarter, $16.41 for the month, or 55 cents per day. Option 2, which is less debt, is an increase of $57.57 per quarter, or $19.19 per month, or 64 cents per day. So a couple things about this. Basically, we're asking which one do you want to do? Do you want to do more debt or less debt? And the thing about option 1 is we still have the optimistic SRF funding in there. So if we don't get that, then we'll have to adjust these rates slightly, and we don't think we probably will. But we have applied. We also have, Tim can talk about the additional federal funding we're trying to grab.
We did submit for the congressional directed spending appropriations, both to Senator Peters and Senator Slotkin, both for help with the CSO storage project. We asked for $4 million there. Actually, the debt service difference between that 3.5 to 3.75 loan, so 2.5 over the 30-year term, is almost $6 million. That's where we started out. Emily did arrange some calls. We did talk to their staffers, and the $4 million seemed like a better number based on those discussions. So that's what we asked for there. And then on the lead service line, we requested 1.25 million. I'm not super optimistic we will get it, but I guess the main thing is we're trying.
Yeah.
We're
Doesn't hurt to ask.
investigating all the options, and one thing we know for sure is if you don't apply, you don't get it. So.
Lottery. Can't win if you don't play. I thought maybe you said earlier option one was less likely to.
Option one has the SRF funding in it, which we don't think we're gonna get.
Yeah.
But it also has, everything's paid with debt. And that debt is except for the SRF is at 3.5%. Which would be equivalent to what the county could possibly get us, depending, I don't know where interest rates are going with, the war going on and everything, so.
So, go ahead.
So we have to decide ahead of time which one we want to go with.
What we're
We
asking
can't-
for is help, which way do you want to go?
So that we can model it.
Yep, so I can put it
future
in and have the
conversations.
agenda item next time for rate approval.
Make sure I understand this, Ben. Option one, more debt,
Yep,
lower rate.
yes,
Option two,
less debt,
less debt,
higher rate.
higher rate. I don't know if that helps. Maybe everyone already got that.
Well, less risk in option two, because we really don't think, based on our past applications for SRF funding, that we will be, they take all the projects and they could put them on a project priority list. You submit a scoring form, and
sure we're
overburdened
not high.
communities, I'm sorry if I've said this 15 times, but they get 25 points right off the top. So the best we can do is 75 out of 100. And then it goes down from there. And I've been looking at the scoring forms because I've got to start turning those in. And I really don't think we're going to be above what they call the fundable range on the PPL. They take the number of dollars that they have and they just go down the list in scoring. And when they run out of money, they run out of money. And in 2024, we were able to do the early action project. But that's because some of the projects fell off the list up top. Something happened and they couldn't use the funding. So about a month and a half after they told us we didn't have funding, they came back and said it was available.
Oh.
We jumped on it. So
So when will we know if we get SRF funding?
August timeframe, August, September is when they come out with the PPLs.
And by then we will have already adopted
Yeah.
and implemented.
We'll have the budget
Our new
going and the
rates.
rates going. The thing though is about these two, the city sewer and city water, you control. So you
Right.
can increase them or decrease them, depending on what you want to do.
Yes. I'm just tossing something out. Would it make sense to be risk averse and go with option two and adjust if we were to get SRF? Or of course, we could do vice versa, accept some risk and then adjust if we didn't get
Yeah.
SRF.
The only thing about that, and that's a perfectly good thing to do, the only thing about that is just like your investments at home, we have to start out building the future cash requirements. So we want, if we're going to do that, we want to have the rates appropriately as soon as we can.
I was leaning towards option two, but
I feel like it's more prudent to start planning towards option two, especially if we think that, self-awareness, right? We have a pretty good feeling. We know how we're going to score on some of these things, which is going to keep us from getting some of these things. So I think it's more prudent of us to plan on option two. And if we get a bonus and we get something we weren't expecting, I'd rather rework it that way and get something I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting than bank on getting something, not getting it.
Mhm.
And now I've planned in a
Scramble.
tougher position. So that's my gut feeling
Yeah.
as well.
I agree, just with being realistic about how we score on these,
Mhm.
I've learned over the last couple of years how we score.
Mhm.
It's not.
I want to go
great,
for
which
it,
is-
but
it's not advantageous to us.
It's really not.
I'll be honest with you, it's a little frustrating because some of the points you get is because you have violations and that sort of thing. And it's like, if you throw us a bone, we're doing everything.
We're doing
right.
it
Combined,
right.
you need to
Yeah.
violate more.
It really is unfair, yeah. So option two is going to be $57.57 if someone's using 90 gallons per day per person and a 3.2 household size.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, and then the last page, I've just listed each rate and then the difference between the two.
Mhm.
You can see we've been ramping the rates up to try and get there, but we've been using the SRF funding as an assumption, and now that that's going away, we really have to change our tactic.
Yeah. No, that seems like the responsible thing to do.
Yeah. And you can see those loans we looked at earlier, everything except for the first 4 or 5 are all SRF funding.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was hopeful.
Yeah, so we'll prepare option 2.
Yeah.
Option 2.
Yeah.
Are you good with that, Lisa?
Yeah,
I
the
find
motion.
this exercise really beneficial for me because I'm constantly thinking, oh, what else do we need to work at? This is a really comprehensive list. It seems like everything that we've got going on. So thank you for everyone for compiling it. My only feedback for me visually, if there's something that's like a state mandate or something we have to do in a certain year, maybe having that in like red or bold or something that stands out, like we have no option to move this around.
Okay, yeah.
Something
that's-
that's like
yeah.
visually saying this cannot move.
I was thinking something similar for where we think we have funding secured, like you mentioned the TAP grant, and there was
Mhm.
something else that came up. When it's not our money, that also, I think you had pulled out a list last year that sort of showed some of that. That's incentive to tap into
Right,
that.
Yeah.
right. Opportunities,
Yeah.
not mandate, but an opportunity.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should be using this to make best
Yeah.
use of our
So
dollars.
the next step is then next time we'll have a draft of the budget and study session just like this. But before that, we'll adopt these 2 rates. And then the time after that will be the public hearing. We'll have the CIP book, the budget book itself, and then the resolution and the public hearing.
Great.
Sounds good.
I think if we are done, you want to adjourn.
All right. Any other things? We all set to go? Okay, we will adjourn our meeting then at 9:20 PM.
That was fast.